Under the pale moonlight, the once mighty Sermon estate stood silent. Beneath its stone corridors, a hidden prison echoed with desperate gasps. Inside a damp cell, Ryun, bloodied and broken, hung in chains. His body, marked with burns and deep wounds, trembled from exhaustion and pain. Sun's Pattern stood before him, calm and cruel. He mocked Ryun's lineage, claiming the Sermon bloodline was blessed, yet found Ryun to be a disgrace. With sadistic delight, Sun's branded Ryun's chest with searing metal, watching his body writhe in agony. Despite the torment, Ryun didn't beg for mercy. Blood dripped from his mouth as he endured blow after blow. Suns ridiculed him for being talentless, cursed from birth, yet somehow stubbornly clinging to life. Ryun could barely speak, but with defiance in his eyes, he whispered a request for death. Sun sneered, amused by the plea, then mocked Ryun's resilience. He revealed that this day marked the 3rd anniversary of House Sermon's fall, a celebration of their complete destruction. Ryun collapsed in silence, his body trembling but unyielding. As moonlight spilled through the barred window, Ryun recalled the glory of House Sermon, a proud family that once stood at the front lines, protecting humanity from monsters. Monsters from the Dark Zone relentlessly flooded into Drea, threatening its survival. Among the 5 great houses, House Sermon stood at the forefront, wielding unmatched strength and honor. Their warriors led the charge, cutting through the demonic hordes and holding the line for humanity. However, that legacy shattered when the head of the house and its heirs vanished without warning. The proud banner of Sermon burned, and the family crumbled overnight. Seizing the opportunity, House Patton attacked. Their ambition wasn't just conquest, it was to claim the sacred bloodline of the Sermons. For generations, that blood carried the power of dragons, producing prodigies who reached magical and martial mastery at a young age. But Ryun, the last surviving member, was different. He had inherited nothing. Marked by a curse, he lacked talent in both swordsmanship and magic, making him a target of ridicule and despair. Sun's Patton subjected him to brutal experiments, attempting to unravel the secret of his blood, but Ryun was too broken to fight, too tired to resist. With death approaching, he accepted it. As Beast closed in, his mind went quiet, ready to fade into rest. But in that final moment, something dark and powerful stirred in the void. In the moment Ryun expected death, a surge of otherworldly power enveloped him. His body, once broken, was now reformed in glowing energy. A colossal shadow loomed behind him, an entity forged of chaos and vengeance. The battlefield twisted into a new realm, and without hesitation, Ryun charged forward, slicing through monstrous enemies with newfound strength. He fought with skill far beyond what he had ever known, and as the divine being above looked on, he stood defiantly against it. Clashing with the radiant godlike figure, Ryun unleashed a fierce assault. The entity countered, conjuring a massive blast of divine energy, engulfing the field. Yet Ryun pressed forward through destruction. As the dust settled, a voice echoed in the void. "I'll grant your wish." In a sudden jolt, Ryun awoke. His injuries were gone, and a familiar voice called him Young Master. Before him stood Colin, the nanny of House Sermon, looking youthful and alive, disoriented. Ryun demanded a mirror and was shocked to see his younger self. Colin confirmed the date, the 11th of August, year 1892, the exact day Ryun had turned 12. Realization struck him. He had returned to the past, to the moment when everything began. Ryun stood before the window, his thoughts racing. It was the same day, the beginning of House Sermon's destruction at the hands of the Patton family. The entity had kept its promise and returned him to this crucial moment. Determined to alter the future, Ryun faced the world not as a powerless child, but as someone who knew what was coming. Soon after, Alejandro, the captain of the Sermon Knights, entered his chamber. Ryun was overwhelmed to see the man alive again, standing strong. Though concerned about Ryun's condition, Alejandro offered to let him skip training. Ryun declined. He had no time to waste. Alejandro watched closely. The boy before him no longer behaved like a timid, noble child. Ryun asked about training, specifically sword drills, but changed his mind. He insisted they go monster hunting instead. This sudden boldness surprised even the seasoned knight. Ryun didn't care whether it was regression or divine intervention. What mattered was the chance he'd been given. He wasn't going to relive the past as a failure. Clutching the hilt of his sword, his eyes burned with resolve this time. He would fight. This time, he would change fate. And above all, this time, he would win. Inside the Sermon estate, Ryun activated the system window tied to his soul. His stats were low, and the curse of Arkan remained in effect, preventing the use of magic and amplifying fear against monsters. Despite this, he was relieved to find the system still functioning in his regressed state. Unlike others, he retained a unique player ability across timelines. A goblin was released into the training arena. Ryun stepped forward, determined to test his strength. The creature lunged, snarling, but Ryun met it head-on with swift movements and confident strikes. His spear landed clean blows, surprising the observers. Colin and Alejandro watched anxiously, worried he was pushing himself too far. Colin protested, fearing for his safety, reminding them how weak Ryun used to be. She wasn't wrong. Before regression, Ryun would have collapsed in panic, but now, he could see clearly the system triggered a warning. The curse was activating. The fear he felt was unnatural, part of the demonic influence embedded within him. Still, he held firm. Though Alejandro called the training session to an end, Ryun refused. He launched himself back into battle. He knew it wasn't enough. This was just the beginning to change fate. He had to overcome the fear right now. Ryun braced himself, reminding his mind and body that he was no longer the same powerless boy from the past. The opponent was just a goblin, nothing compared to the horrors he had once endured. His resolve ignited even as the curse of Arkan loomed behind him like a spectral shadow. Fueled by experience and determination, he launched a precise counterattack. His strike landed, clean and fierce. System alerts flashed. He had overcome the curse through sheer willpower. The fear of monsters no longer gripped him. For the first time, he stood tall without trembling. The curse's influence weakened, unable to bind the new Ryun. With unwavering eyes, he requested a real sword. Those around him watched in awe. Alejandro recognized the shift. Ryun was no longer the helpless heir they once knew. Empowered. Ryun charged again. His blade tore through the goblin without hesitation. Blood stained the ground, and silence followed. Alejandro declared the boy's growth undeniable. Ryun had taken the first step to reclaim his name. In solitude, he washed away the blood, reflecting on the battle. The system had helped, yes, but more importantly, he had proven that he could evolve. The curse could be challenged, so could fate. Although Ryun had overcome fear and slain the goblin, the reward was disappointing. His experience points increased only slightly. At this rate, leveling up would require hunting thousands of monsters. He realized time was slipping away. The day House Sermon would fall was drawing closer, and he had to grow faster. Despite the slow progress, Ryun remained focused. He confirmed that the curse of Arkan could be resisted and that growth was now possible. But one method wouldn't be enough. With the family's decline and his father and brother still missing, the window to act was short. Enemies hadn't made their moves yet, but they would soon. Determined to accelerate his progress, Ryun initiated the second method. He called upon a powerful figure. Sena, captain of Sermon's magic corps and a seventh circle archmage, known for her strength and secrecy. She was someone even Ryun's father respected. Though skeptical, Sena agreed to meet. She criticized his lack of magical talent and reminded him of the curse that blocked his mana. Yet Ryun didn't back down. He declared that something had changed. With a steady voice and sharp eyes, he asked a single question that caught Serena off guard. What if I can feel mana? Ryun stood quietly as Sena summoned a vision crafted purely from mana. Flames surged, shaping the form of a majestic red dragon hovering above the table. When prompted to identify the figure, Ryun responded without hesitation, confirming the exact image Sena had drawn using mana. Shocked by his accuracy, Sena questioned how he could perceive such a high-level construct without formal refinement training. She reminded him that interpreting mana images required deep mastery, something Ryun had supposedly not achieved. Despite his ability to sense mana, Ryun confessed that he couldn't refine it using the family's technique. That shortcoming, he said, was why he needed her help. Sena explained that mana refinement required opening the body to guide mana, a dangerous process she would have to control directly. It meant risking his life in her hands. Ryun, fully aware of the risk, placed his trust in her. Memories flooded him, Sena shielding him in a previous life during an ambush. Even while her body was breaking down from mana depletion, she had fought to protect him. Reflecting on her unwavering loyalty, Ryun once again called her name, placing his fate in her hands once more, not just out of desperation but out of trust built through sacrifice. After confirming his trust, Ryun knelt shirtless, ready to undergo the dangerous blue earth refinement ritual. Sena, invoking a method reserved for direct heirs, began channeling mana with intense concentration. Her energy enveloped the room, pulsing with vibrant force. Ryun, though trained in Aedeon, knew this world's version required different focus. As her mana poured into him, he was warned to remain silent and still despite the pain. The process began to overwhelm him. Mana coursed violently through his body, triggering a wave of pain that resurfaced buried memories of his torture and death. Visions of blood, chains, and a pale enemy haunted his mind, testing his resolve. Sena reminded him to hold on, her voice grounding him amid the agony. Despite Ryun's trust, panic flared. The curse within him resisted the ritual. As the energy surged, his body reacted violently, muscles tensing and veins glowing. Notifications appeared, the curse of Arkan activates. Mana scatters. Confirming his internal resistance, Sena, unfazed, anticipated the backlash. She steadied him and inserted more mana, pushing forward despite repeated activation of the curse. Ryun gritted his teeth as he endured the torment, both their wills tested against the ancient curse threatening to tear him apart. Despite the mounting pain, Ryun remained focused. He realized that the notifications indicating the curse activation were visible only to him. Sena's powerful mana alone couldn't suppress Arkan's top-tier curse, yet Ryun had another path. He activated a curse technique he learned in Aedeon that allowed him to deceive the system. As Sena poured mana into him, Ryun compressed the scattering energy, forcing it to remain within the boundaries of his body. To her surprise, the mana didn't leak. Multiple notifications flashed. You resist the curse of Arkan. His body trembled from the searing heat of mana flowing through unstable paths, but he endured. Flashes of his brutal battles in Aedeon filled his mind. Pain worse than now, battles against monsters and dragons. With a hardened will, he proclaimed himself the master player of Aedeon. That identity, burned into his soul, began to awaken. His refined understanding of mana ignited a response even the curse struggled to contain. Finally, a massive surge of energy burst through his body. Sena rushed toward him as Ryun's transformation neared its end. Glowing with raw force, he staggered back. His body pushed to its limits, Sena called out, but Ryun's focus remained locked on one truth. He had endured and survived. Ryun's body trembled from the searing pain. His consciousness waned, yet he endured, recalling a pain far worse. His past life in the Patton family's dungeon. Strapped and bleeding, he had been treated as an experimental subject. The captors mocked his ruined state and debated whether to amputate or discard him. Just as a blade was raised toward him, chaos erupted. An intruder stormed in, slashing through guards amid the blood and confusion. Ryun was freed and dragged outside. Under the moonlit sky, he questioned if he was truly free. Until he saw him, Alejandro, battered but alive, knelt before him. Apologizing for the delay, he extended a hand. Ryun, overwhelmed by emotion, recognized his loyal savior. As tears fell, the memory dissolved. He woke in bed, breath catching, his body soaked in sweat. The refinement had succeeded, yet the memory of Alejandro's rescue, relived through the dream, sharpened his resolve. Ryun vowed never to suffer that fate again. Now armed with strength and purpose, he must prevent the truth of his abilities from being exposed, especially to the Patton family. With new determination, he clenched his fist, knowing the next step was clear, to take back the Sermon family's power from those who destroyed it. In the quiet morning light, Ryun sat up in bed within the estate's grand chambers. He reflected on his unsuccessful mana refinement, aware of the expectations placed on him as the heir. As Sena and Alejandro stood before him, concerned, Ryun quietly confessed his failure, leaving both stunned into silence. Though Ryun felt guilty, he decided not to reveal the truth behind his condition. Facing the two who cared for him, he weighed the value of honesty against the burden it would place on them. Admitting his mana was gone, Ryun invited them to verify it themselves, knowing their disbelief would only grow. Sena, skeptical of his claim, activated a spell to detect mana within Ryun's body. Bright light flared as her spell made contact, searching for any trace of power. A swirl of green energy erupted, confirming the reality she wasn't prepared to accept. Shock filled Sena's face. The mana she had sensed before had completely vanished. Disbelief clouded her expression as she recalled how strong the aura was just the day before. Without a word, she turned and exited the room, leaving Ryun and Alejandro speechless. Alejandro asked her departure, his face composed yet troubled by what he witnessed. Attempting to encourage Ryun, he reminded him of his previous success in monster hunting. But Ryun confessed the toll it had taken, so severe he doubted he could ever repeat it. Alejandro was stunned. 2 months passed as autumn turned to winter. House Sermon, once vibrant, grew eerily quiet. Colin stood outside Ryun's locked room again, whispering that the young master hadn't emerged. With the family leader gone and the madam struggling to hold things together, the house was nearing its limit. Servants murmured about Ryun's absence, questioning his lack of training and avoiding the night captain. Rumors spread that Ryun was fading away, possibly dying from his condition. Colin, frustrated, defended him, insisting he had only tried to meet everyone's expectations. Whispers labeled Ryun as the reason for House Sermon's decline. The insult scoundrel of House Sermon echoed beyond the estate. Across the kingdom, staff began resigning. Even those still present discussed leaving. Unable to endure the decline, Colin was asked what she would do. Her loyalty wavered as concern for Ryun grew. Meanwhile, Ryun quietly observed the changes, noting the worsening food and atmosphere, smiling to himself. He recognized this chaos as part of his hidden plan. Ryun recalled that, in the past, he had tried to save the family with desperation. But now, with knowledge from Aedion, he chose to remain silent, waiting for the right moment. He knew the family's collapse had begun with the disappearance of his eldest brother, and the same fate had befallen the others. The once lively training grounds had become hollow and quiet, with only a few low-ranked knights left to maintain order. Servants moved without energy, their morale drained, and the mansion fell deeper into neglect. Even nobles hoping to curry favor with the next heir stopped visiting. Ryun used the growing isolation to his advantage, enjoying seclusion within his room. Although his plan to spread despair worked, the pace was slower than expected, prompting him to refine it. Just then, Colleen burst in, demanding he join training. She refused to let the decline continue without resistance. Half awake, Ryun tried to decline, but Colleen wouldn't accept his excuse. She lifted him without hesitation, dragging him along as he looked on in disbelief. Despite his surprise, Ryun couldn't help but feel moved by her dedication. Colleen declared with conviction that she would never abandon House Sermon. Clutching Ryun tightly, she ran with him toward the training grounds. There, Alejandro scolded Ryun, insisting he grasp his sword correctly and take the training seriously. Alejandro emphasized the importance of persistence, even without feeling mana. Ryun masked his capabilities, knowing his skills surpassed ordinary standards, including through secret training methods. Activating the rare body domination skill, Ryun trained beyond human limits. During intense training, Ryun gained slight improvements in stamina and strength, smiling at the system's feedback. Feigning fatigue, he rushed off, using the moment to stabilize his unstable body domination skill in secret. Alone, he confirmed the skill's flaws. Sudden motion disrupted control, but the gains were steady. Ryun checked his status, level 3, cursed but progressing. Months of hidden training were paying off. He planned to acquire ghost-related skills next and noticed Alejandro speaking with a visitor. The visitor brought a letter bearing the seal of the kingdom's third prince. The letter was an invitation to a royal birthday celebration. Kyle-Daran Ryun's eyes sharpened. The moment he had been preparing for had arrived. With the invitation in hand, the final step to House Sermon's collapse had begun. Ryun awoke in a carriage under the morning sun, yawning as the journey continued. He explained that he had slept late due to Colin persistently adjusting his attire the night before. Colin had also insisted on accompanying them, which was difficult to decline since neither Alejandro nor Sina joined the trip. As the carriage rolled forward, they discussed a recent outbreak of monsters from the dark zone near the continent's border. Alejandro had been dispatched to stop the threat, fulfilling House Sermon's responsibility to protect the continent. Sena had also departed due to an urgent summons, which she couldn't refuse as acting head of the family. Ryun, still just 12, was now the family's sole representative sent to the royal capital amid their decline. Despite reassurances, Ryun reflected that the Sermon name no longer held enough weight to ensure safety. In the past, a letter sufficed. Now, Ryun had to appear personally before the prince, accepting his part in the downfall. The royal capital of Daran Kingdom emerged on the horizon as the carriage approached the grand city. The estate came into view, bustling with attendants lining the path to welcome the arriving guests. Ryun and his group stepped down before an awaiting noble, prepared to fulfill their ceremonial duty. Prince Kyle-Daran greeted them with a smile, addressing Ryun with the honorary title Dragon of Draya. He welcomed them formally, recognizing Ryun's presence as the representative of House Sermon. While polite on the surface, Ryun internally questioned the true nature behind the prince's warm hospitality. As Ryun traveled through the capital, he noticed the growing attention from the city's citizens watching his carriage in silence. He sensed their judgmental stares, all aimed at the collapsing reputation of House Sermon. Even the nobles whispered about him, labeling him as the hopeless heir whose presence symbolized the family's decline. Despite their ridicule, Ryun calmly acknowledged that the rumors were spreading just as he intended. Putting on a cheerful facade, he greeted others with an exaggerated smile, confusing onlookers. His escort could only sigh in disbelief, while bystanders exchanged amused and doubtful looks at his odd demeanor. Internally, Ryun grinned with satisfaction, questioning if he should keep playing along with the act. Meanwhile, across the castle, young nobles who arrived early chatted about Ryun's lack of presence at events. They noted it had already been 5 days, yet Ryun hadn't made any meaningful appearance at the royal gatherings. Some mocked how he failed to even greet the nobles properly, hiding away since his arrival. Others lamented missing out on the ongoing celebrations, distracted by Ryun's unexpected behavior. Their frustration grew, believing Ryun was spoiling their chance to enjoy the luxuries of the capital. Ryun suddenly appeared and announced his plan to attend the banquet, easing the tension among his escorts. He had convinced them he needed space, but his attendance was a calculated move. His eyes sharpened with purpose. Today marked the arrival of someone critical to his larger plan. Ryun's anticipation proved correct. Sun's Phaeton had finally arrived at the capital. News of his entry spread rapidly, and nobles murmured as the infamous guest walked confidently into the palace. With authority, Sun's Phaeton entered the hall flanked by guards. His presence made others uneasy, especially the steward, who immediately recognized the seriousness of his arrival. Sun's exchanged greetings with an official, noting House Sermon's earlier arrival with calculated interest. He then shifted the topic, clearly preparing to stir tension by bringing up Ryun Sermon's name. He asked directly about Ryun's whereabouts, suggesting he was infamous enough to warrant special mention. Feigning ignorance, the official tried to deflect, but Sun's pressed further with veiled mockery. He referred to Ryun as the omen of House Sermon's fall, fully aware of the insult he was delivering. Sun's flaunted his magical talent, reminding everyone of his achievements and status at a young age. He continued mocking Ryun, disguising insults as concern and suggesting punishment for rumor spreaders. Though his words seemed noble, whispers spread that Sun's himself had a far darker. Finally, Ryun arrived. His entrance was met with immediate silence and a shift in the hall's atmosphere. Even Sun's, who had been provoking others, was caught off guard by Ryun's composed appearance. The crowd, expecting someone disgraceful, was stunned. Ryun looked nothing like the rumors described. Ryun's unexpected charm unsettled the crowd, as nobles questioned the rumors, labeling him a disgrace. Even Sun's Phaeton silently fumed, realizing once again that the Sermon name was eclipsing his own presence. Ryun approached him calmly, introducing himself and referencing Laths, a shared acquaintance. The name Laths drew the attention of those nearby. He was the long-missing fourth son of House Sermon. Ryun's words caught Sun's off guard, forcing a restrained response as he acknowledged knowing Ryun as well. Ryun added that Laths spoke highly of Sun's, calling him a kind person, a statement that stung more than praised. Ryun recounted Sun's past, his academy fame, and heroic actions, stirring memories Sun's would rather forget. Recalling moments when Sun's helped others, Ryun subtly highlighted his opponent's better side in front of the crowd. Sun's grew tense as Ryun continued listing past acts of kindness, disarming him without direct conflict. Ryun playfully added forgotten details, including Sun's treating Lath's injured knees with medicine. He casually mentioned a forgotten message from the Knight Captain, further frustrating Sun's. Ryun walked away unbothered, leaving Sun's boiling in silent anger. As he passed, Ryun whispered something quietly that struck deep, forcing Sun's to tremble with rage. Before things escalated, Ryun was pulled aside by his escort with perfect timing left behind. Sun's clenched his fists in fury, unable to retaliate as his image began to crack. Sun's Phaeton trembled with fury, his pride wounded by Ryun's veiled provocation. Despite Sun's anger, Ryun remained calm, silently urging him to react further. Unbothered, Ryun embraced the hostility. Sun's rage was exactly what he needed to move his plan forward. At night, the mansion loomed silently, unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Inside, tension swirled beneath the surface like an approaching storm. A crystal embedded with divine energy cracked open, releasing light and power. It marked the end of a brutal struggle in a place known only as the battlefield. Sun's Phaeton stormed through the hallway. Furious, Ryun Sermon's name echoed off the walls. Ras's reputation had already informed Sun's of everything. The Academy's halls whispered tales of Sun's Phaeton's cruelty and violence. Even after efforts to suppress the rumors, Ras had shared what happened. The injury, the humiliation. Ryan's trauma resurfaced as memories of the blade and the torment returned. Ras's appearance meant consequences were finally coming. Confronted publicly, Sun's was surrounded by powerful students. Ras's power flared coldly, unforgiving. Sun's tried to excuse his actions, claiming ignorance, but Ras offered no leniency, only one option: kneel and beg. When Sun's complied, shame coated his silence. He knelt, defeated under the weight of guilt and fear alone. Sun's screamed. Rage and panic collided as his carefully laid plans unraveled. He tried to refocus. Ras was a threat, but another target remained, the younger sibling. Driven by vengeance, Sun's approached a sealed chamber inside, awaited his next move. The doors creaked open slowly, revealing a dimly lit room guarded by shadows. As Sun's stepped inside, he froze. His expression hardened as he recognized the figure standing calmly. Truno Hild, chief steward of House Sermon, stood silently, unexpected and dangerous. A procession of guards escorted a noble carriage through the city, signaling the end of a carefully orchestrated public appearance. Inside, Ryun reflected on his success, his reckless image now replaced with that of a loyal, unremarkable heir. Sun's Phaeton had fallen into the trap exactly as planned, allowing the true scheme to unfold unnoticed. Truno praised the strategy, acknowledging how Ryun's maneuver had reignited hope for House Sermon's future. Still, Ryun hesitated. He had damaged ties with Sun's family rather than gaining political allies, risking broader consequences. Truno dismissed the concern, claiming the outcome was deeply satisfying. Sons had been humiliated beyond recovery. Suddenly, Ryun reached for the carriage's magic barrier, adjusting the soundproofing without warning. Truno questioned the action, his nerves exposed as Ryun's demeanor turned cold. With chilling calm, Ryun accused him of betrayal, warning that false hope should never have existed in a traitor. Fear overtook Truno. He begged for clarity as Ryun declared his crimes severe but oddly forgivable. Because the betrayal was in service of House Sermon, Ryun implied a possible path to redemption. Stunned, Truno asked how much Ryun truly knew. Ryun offered him a final opportunity, not of mercy, but of judgment. Truno knelt, demanded answer of Ryun's knowledge about that. Thou, Ryun urged Truno to listen carefully and decide just as he had always done before. Under the moonlight, the carriage pressed forward. A heavy silence hung in the air, broken only by the thudding of hooves. Inside, Ryun sat quietly, his heartbeat steady, his thoughts unreadable as tension grew in the confined space. Truno shifted nervously, glancing toward Ryun, sensing a pressure he couldn't understand. Ryun's cold gaze bore into Truno, questioning how such betrayal had even been considered. Truno, overwhelmed, demanded to know how Ryun had orchestrated the events so flawlessly. Speechless, he gasped and trembled as Ryun's unshaken presence made the reality clear. He had been outplayed from the beginning. Tears welled up in Truno's eyes as he addressed Ryun. No longer as a traitor, but as a loyal steward, he praised Ryun's resolve, realizing the boy had embraced the path ahead without fear or hesitation. Ryun, already committed, reminded Truno that their journey had passed the point of no return. Truno observed the young master's smile, confused by its unnatural calm. It wasn't just confidence. It was a chilling, calculated expression, driven by murderous intent. Outside, the carriage suddenly halted, panic rippled through the escort. Guards looked around, confused. The command to move came too late. Poison spread, chaos erupted. The realization came, this was no delay. It was an ambush. An attacker struck from the shadows. Screams filled the night as blood was spilled under the full moon. Under a barrage of glowing arrows, guards scrambled to protect the carriage as enemy mana filled the air. Mages quickly cast defensive barriers, shielding the transport from magical projectiles while chaos erupted outside. Riders cursed the attack, declaring that those who defied House Sermon would pay dearly. As panic surged, a soldier warned others not to approach the carriage without command. Ryun had vanished without a trace. Shock rippled through the troops as the captain realized something was deeply wrong. With the young master missing, confusion spread rapidly through the ranks. Under a full moon, a shadow streaked across the night forest. The air trembled as the calm sky was broken. A black horse charged beneath the moonlight, its rider cloaked and swift. Truno galloped through the woods at full speed. Truno's breath grew heavy with effort. His eyes glinted with grim determination as he held tight to Ryun. Dark magic triggered the moment Ryun lost consciousness. Multiple abnormal status effects activated. Darkness, sensory disruption, and physical restriction. Ryun suspended in a magical space. He questioned how much time had passed, feeling the weight of unnecessary curses placed upon him. After his abduction, the sermon guards had gone frantic, leading to the collapse of the family. All except his younger sister, now aware and reborn, Ryun saw a chance. Unlike before, he could manipulate this crisis to his benefit, shifting the timeline to serve his new goals. Elsewhere, noble leaders panicked over the sermon family's downfall. Rumors of their weakness spread, creating doubt and confusion among rival houses. Ryun knew if he acted now, appearing strong, it would provoke noble opposition. He chose instead to keep his strength hidden. To avoid suspicion, Ryun spread rumors that he posed no threat. He feigned weakness to lower the guard of opposing families. Still, the Patton family continued to target him. Despite the deception, they refused to leave him alone, sensing the potential danger he posed. Ryun welcomed this. Sons Patton, now convinced by the false rumors, had walked straight into Ryun's calculated trap upon returning from the capital. Sons Patton plotted carefully. If Ryun had internal allies, it would accelerate his threat. He debated whether to act now or delay. The decision rested on Truno. Would he let this moment be remembered as the start of the Sermon family's end, or the signal of their return, as magical resistance formed around Ryun's body? His preparations neared completion. His defenses activated, silently rejecting the abnormal status spells placed on him. Inside the magical cocoon, Ryun sensed the status effects waning. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Truno whispered repeated apologies. Regret flooded his voice as he clutched Ryun during their high-speed ride. But Ryun, fully conscious within the spell, commanded Truno coldly to stay the course. Ryun's attributes hit level 20, unlocking the elusive sense stat. His internal systems acknowledged the milestone. As Truno arrived at the designated location, one of them commended Truno for completing the delivery as instructed. Sun's Patton, surprised to see Truno appear in person, mocked him for betraying his own young master. Holding Ryun, Truno stood firm but silent. Suns derided him further, calling it pathetic to sell out his own lord. Suns warned him that a servant who bites his master must pay the price. Truno clenched his jaw but offered no defense. Suns presented a scroll, claiming it was intelligence from the Asen family. Truno asked if the information was real. Suns assured him it was verified and emphasized the Asen family's unmatched reliability. He slammed the scroll down, declaring it a priceless asset even Truno could never afford. Suns flaunted the Phaeton family's wealth. From a distance, Ryun silently observed the exchange. He realized that Truno's betrayal had a purpose. Though Truno couldn't afford the information himself, his deception had drawn Suns into revealing it. Suns, now finished with the meeting, ordered Truno to leave. The task was done. His voice was laced with contempt as he called Truno a traitor. Truno asked Suns to uphold his end of the bargain. His voice was strained but composed. Suns promised that Ryun, the young master of the Sermon family, would be returned unharmed. When asked if they should eliminate Truno, he dismissed the idea, believing the man was as good as dead already. Suns remarked that the Sermon family likely realized by now that Truno was the traitor. The timing was perfect. He insisted on handling things personally. Seizing Ryun by the hair, he declared he had waited just to personally deal with the boy. Moonlight spilled over the Phaeton estate. Inside, the dark confrontation began, as Ryun's consciousness flickered between awareness and fading clarity. Suns mocked Ryun, asking if he understood the situation now. Ryun hung chained, bruised but silent as Suns struck him again. Laughing cruelly, Suns ridiculed the Sermon lineage. He found it hilarious that a noble heir had fallen into such disgrace. Ryun questioned Suns' motives. Suns confirmed with a sneer. He had kidnapped the final heir of the Sermon family. Ryun warned him about the consequences. Suns scoffed, accusing Ryun of making threats. Suns noted that Ryun had clearly learned much from his brother. Reyes, his tone sharpened as he tightened his grip again. He asked if Ras had shared everything, then moved closer, preparing to reveal a crueler truth hidden beneath their past. Suns exploded in rage, shouting that it would have been better if Ryun's father and brothers had simply died and vanished. Striking him again, Suns roared, demanding to know why Ryun had dared challenge the Phaeton family. He reminded Ryun of his former status, once guarded in luxury, now reduced to chains. But Ryun's eyes sparked with something hidden beneath the pain. Suns Patton laughed hysterically, revealing that Truno had sold Ryun in exchange for intel on his missing brothers. Suns warned Ryun that this abduction would ignite war between the Phaeton and Sermon families. Ryun, bleeding and restrained, quietly mocked him in his mind. He was done listening. A hidden seal activated. Ryun's magic burst forth, catching Suns off guard. Green light swirled violently. A complex magic circle formed in front of Ryun, glowing with energy. Standing firm, Ryun fully activated the spell. He had been preparing this moment from the beginning. Sun stands within a glowing magic circle, energy surging as he covers his face and prepares for a long-awaited activation. With his arms outstretched, he levitates above a complex array of runes, the power of the ritual intensifying around him. Having returned to Drea, Ryun declares this as the moment he had prepared for. Suns Patton watches, confused as the circle flares. Under the full moon, the tower glows faintly green from the magical surge below. Both figures float within the ritual circle. Suns Patton, realizing nothing seems to happen, grows impatient. Accusing Ryun of wasting time, Suns grabs him, believing the ritual was only a bluff to delay. Ryun mocks him and reminds Suns of his earlier warning, staring sharply. Without warning, the circle reacts, catching Suns off guard with a powerful force. The magical blow strikes Suns directly, forcing a pained reaction as he reels back. Suns clutches his throat, discovering he can no longer speak. Ryun reveals the silence magic circle, sealing Suns' higher-order spells. Panicking, Suns tries to compensate by preparing a chantless fireball, Suns recalls that only third circle spells can be cast without incantation and higher magic is restricted. He attempts to launch a desperate magical attack at Ryun under Lord Patton's directive. Ryun counters effortlessly, identifying Sun's reliance on weak magic as a fatal error. Suns considers escaping punishment from his father if he only loses a leg. Despite his failure, he launches a spell toward Ryun's foot, but the magic is resisted, failing to deliver damage. Ryun narrows his eyes as Suns, unaware of the failure, begins to unleash a blazing fireball. Suns attempts a third circle spell, thinking it will turn the fight, but Ryun warns it's too late. The fireball flies toward him, but Ryun doesn't evade blindly. Instead, he activates another array. With calm precision, he casts Mana Disruption, completely nullifying Sun's attack mid. Ere Ryun explains the moment any advanced spell is triggered, it is instantly neutralized. Suns, frustrated, tries to strike directly, only to be stopped once more. Kneeling, he looks up as Ryun stands unharmed, surrounded by calm blue magic. Ryun declares the magical chains meaningless and effortlessly breaks free. He casts a second layered circle and uses the paralyzed spell to immobilize Suns. Electric shocks overwhelm Suns, causing him to scream in agony and lose control. As Suns collapses, Ryun tells him to open his eyes and recognize the shift. He declares that this time their positions have changed. Suns is now the one on the floor. The room dims. Suns regains a bit of consciousness, groaning in pain as his defeat sinks in. Ryun watches as Suns regains consciousness in chains. Ryun calmly comments on his long rest and the hidden dagger. Suns shifts, testing the chains binding him, and tries to sit up despite the restraints. Glaring with rage, Suns recognizes Ryun and attempts to rise with violent intent. Realizing he can speak again, Suns notes the chains are only physical, not magical. He casts Wind Cut, confident it will break him free and attack Ryun. The spell backfires painfully. Ryun stands calmly, having already predicted the reaction. Ryun reveals he had embedded a trap spell in Sun's body, not the ground. Holding a dagger, Ryun states the entire circle was etched directly onto Sun's skin. The moment the dagger activates the circle, Sun screams in shock and pain. Ryun describes the blood, circle magic, carving spell arrays into flesh while the target remains awake. He reminds Suns of a past crime. Inflicting the same torture on a child, staggered and bleeding, Suns trembles, horrified that Ryun knows this forbidden spell. Ryun answers with clarity, he shouldn't have magic, but gained it from his past life. By mastering mana, linked 3 months ago, Ryun began learning concealment and circuit control. Every skill, Ryun explains, runs through circuits where mana is injected to activate powers. Ryun explains that only someone like him can perceive circuits and memorize every skill he has learned. He recalls how he slipped away from Sermon using concealment, gaining skills instantly through mana link, preparing the dungeon with hidden traps. He waited for Sun's patent to trigger them without knowing. Ryun activates a blood circle trap meant for him, now reversed to torture Suns instead. The circle unleashes unbearable pain. Ryun calmly watches as the tower lights up with Sun's screams. Suns collapses, begging for mercy through blood and tears, unable to withstand the agony. Ryun mocks him, but Suns suddenly warns that Patton's men will arrive soon to kill him. Suns pleads, admitting he shared the timeline out of gratitude for stopping the torture. Ryun reveals he already knew Suns wasn't unconscious and deliberately dragged it out for pleasure. Ryun exposes Sun's scheme. He pretended unconsciousness just to prolong torture for enjoyment and bought time for allies. As guards approach, Suns panics, knowing they'll kill him for failing the mission. The elite squad, the Fingers of House Patton, finally arrives. Ryun warns Suns about the Fingers of House Patton, an elite loyal execution unit. Now on their way, Suns pleads in desperation. But Ryun activates another blood circle, delivering searing magical pain. As magic erupts, Ryun staggers, blood trailing from his body as the spell finishes its course. Ryun endures the pain while Suns screams, his body overwhelmed by the activated circle. Despite Suns calling out, Ryun turns calmly and prepares for the arrival of the incoming force. He knows the Fingers of House Patton will arrive in 1 week. A week later, cloaked enforcers arrive at the tower and confirm the kidnapping incident. The unit leader, Lord Ake, learns no contact was made since the incident occurred. He questions if any outsiders have entered, receiving firm denial from the guards. Assured of strict monitoring, Ake prepares to enter himself. He's reminded of the family's direct order to retrieve the target alive, avoiding unnecessary deaths. Ake activates magic, declaring his intent to enter personally and take full control. Ake asserts that even blood relatives won't stop his mission if they interfere. With magic pulsing, he orders his men to remain behind. Descending into the tower's depths, he readies himself to face whatever trap Ryun has prepared. Ake descends deeper and senses an ominous presence, but is confused by the absence of detectable mana. As he steps forward, the ground activates, revealing a hidden magic trap beneath his feet. Caught within the activated magic circle, Ake reacts swiftly and deploys a barrier to protect himself. Ake realizes something must have gone wrong with Sun's patent and initiates detection magic. He identifies that the traps are powered through interconnected magic circuits placed throughout the dungeon. A double-layered barrier holds him in place as he notes the trap maker is highly skilled, likely from House Sermon or a third party. Despite the barriers, Ake prepares an offensive counterspell, declaring that he won't tolerate defiance. The scene cuts to a chained, bloodied Sun's patent slumped against the dungeon wall. Blood pools beneath him, the grim result of relentless magical torment. Ake destroys the cell door and rushes inside upon seeing Sun's in critical condition. Shocked at the scene, he demands answers while beginning an emergency spell to stabilize him. Sun's barely responds, too injured to explain what happened inside the dungeon. Ake confirms the residual magic is Sun's own and orders immediate healing. Realizing the enemy hasn't appeared yet, he prioritizes escape over investigation. He notes the hallway is littered with deadly traps. Evidence of a well-prepared ambush. Ryun stands before Ake, his injuries clear but his resolve firm. Ake deduces the boy must be their target. Ryun refuses to retreat, understanding the enemy only came for him. Ake confirms the brat's identity. Sun's weakly identifies Ryun as the one who caused his suffering, filled with rage and hatred. Ake prepares a forbidden seventh circle spell to erase Sun's and Ryun in one strike. Ryun appears mid-cast and surprises Ake with illusions and rapid movement. As Ake reacts in shock, Ryun counters with a fireball that disrupts Ake's concentration. The incomplete chant causes backlash. Ake bleeds from his mouth due to mana disruption. Ryun reveals his illusion magic fooled Ake, who failed to notice the room's signs. As illusions multiply, Ryun mocks Ake for not targeting him first. Ake attempts to remove the illusions, confident as a master of illusion magic. He casts a spell to clear all visual tricks, but Ryun's clones surround him again. Ryun darts forward through the chaos, aiming a precise attack at Ake. Ryun's real body closes in rapidly, locking eyes with Ake mid. Charge. Ake curses his opponent as impudent just as Ryun strikes him hard. The blow lands directly on Ake's head, dealing visible damage and disrupting his spell. Ryun is struck down violently, collapsing to the ground, but Ake underestimates the injury's impact. Confident, Ake prepares a destructive spell, declaring that even mutilating Ryun's face will be forgiven. Believing Ryun's illusion was his last move, Ake mocks him and prepares to end the fight. A sudden flash distracts Ake. Ryun's dagger appears, aimed with precision. The blade pierces through Ake's armor, leaving him shocked and bleeding. To Ake's surprise, the body he stabbed belongs to Sun's patent, now possessed by Ryun. Ryun explains his soul now occupies Sun's body. Using soul transfer magic, the blood circle engraved on the body contains additional hidden enchantments. The spell prevents death, delays damage, and is key to Ryun's strategy. Ryun, in his original body, prepares his final move from a magic circle. Calling this his true trump card, he detonates a powerful explosion. The blast hurls Ake backwards, smashing him into the floor. A massive explosion erupts inside the stone chamber, blowing apart debris and filling the area with fire and dust. The force sends Ake flying backward through the room as rubble and shockwaves spiral out from the impact point. Ake crashes hard into the floor. The dust settles, and Ryun advances, flames still swirling around his arm. Ryun grips Ake with brutal force. His control over Sun's possessed body grants him overwhelming strength. Ake tries to resist, reaching for a potion in desperation. Ryun watches calmly, anticipating the next move. Ryun drinks the potion himself. Despite the pain he endures, unlocking the pain-resistant skill and immediately raising its grade. He stabs himself purposefully, leaving a visible wound on Sun's body to mislead others later. Declaring success, Ryun raises his arms triumphantly. Ake lies dead beneath him, surrounded by blood. The system notifies quest completion. Ryun's level increases rapidly as he absorbs the victory rewards. Ryun is stunned by the sudden jump in level from 2 to 15. The system confirms his new status. He wonders if the earlier quest caused this jump, but he sets aside the thought for now. Instead, he prepares a ritual circle, knowing there is still more to be done. Ryun drags Ake's corpse into position. Blood trails behind as he sets the body on the ritual altar. A magic formation activates beneath Ake. Ryun reflects on how this success may accelerate his future plans. As circuits begin to engrave themselves on his soul, Ryun steels himself for what's to come. Ryun channels his own magic power through Sun's body, initiating a complex ritual by pouring energy into a pre-prepared circuit engraved on his soul. His power surges, but the toll becomes clear. His level begins to drop as the magic consumption intensifies. As expected, his level decreases by 5. Despite the loss, the system confirms a new condition has been achieved. Ryun receives the Shadow class, a stealth, focused assassin lineage that activates only under extreme magical and physical strain. He reflects on the success but recognizes he still has enough levels remaining to attempt 2 more class transitions. Looking up at the stormy tower above, he prepares for the next transformation with determination. Powerful magic circles form as Ryun begins his second job change. His aura shifts drastically, radiating death energy. The system announces success. He acquires Hand of Death. An advanced necromancer class, Ryun stands surrounded by 3 glowing cards poised to reach for more power. Only one of the 2 attempts succeeded. Hand of Death is confirmed as an official job class with ties to assassin lineage. Ryun recalls that his initial plan was only to reach this stage, but the level boost after defeating Ake has opened new opportunities. If he succeeds in one more job change, he can access the Ghost class, one of the most powerful combinations. He explains that Ghost's advanced class requires a larger soul to hold its circuits. Even knowing the potential backlash, Ryun can't hesitate. The reward is too great. His level drops again, marking the beginning of the 3rd and most dangerous job change. As Ryun forces the final job change, something goes wrong. His soul fractures under the strain of the ritual. Pain tears through him, far beyond the physical, and the system confirms that his soul has been wounded. Hank, screaming, he clutches his chest, overwhelmed by agony. The process is failing. Ryun collapses, barely conscious. His mind spirals into a vision of past battles and death. He relives moments of sacrifice. Countless allies had fallen beside him in Adean, their lives fueling his rise. Images of Sina and Alejandro flash through his mind, their bloodshed anchoring his resolve. Clenching his teeth, Ryun makes a decision. Even if it costs him his soul, he won't stop here. He resumes the ritual with renewed determination, screaming as energy explodes from his body. Suddenly, the system accepts his offering. His soul meets the size requirement. The hidden class is unlocked. Ryun pleads silently, bloodied but resolute. The final selection screen appears before him. He's one step away. Phantom appears, an advanced form of the hidden Ghost class, completely unknown even in Adean. Ryun is stunned, realizing this class has never been seen before, not even by him. Behind him, his real self watches, as the system finalizes the creation of something new and powerful. Ryun confirms that Phantom is the advanced version of the hidden class Ghost, and its abilities are likely compatible. Possessing everything he sought, he refocuses on his original goal, utilizing the corpse of the Chith Circle Archmage. He prepares the body to begin the core of his plan, enhancing necromantic power through rare materials. Slaying Aki was part of a deeper scheme to create an undead far beyond ordinary standards. He activates the skill Lich Creation and pours power into the ritual, relying on the quality of the material. The system registers the skill activation. Ryun initiates the transformation, hoping for accelerated results. The Lich ritual fails, but the system triggers a fallback. Special undead creation activates. Dark energy manifests violently around him, drawing out a unique presence from the corpse. A powerful armored figure rises. The system confirms successful creation of a special undead. The final prompt appears. Ryun is asked to name his new, terrifying creation. He smiles, realizing this result may exceed even a lich. The being stands tall behind him, ominous, dark, and entirely under his control. Ryun completes a powerful dark ritual, summoning an armored undead entity, with his back bare and arms raised. He stands within the summoning circle as the system notifies his success in creating a special undead. As the summoned creature opens its glowing eyes, the system asks Ryun to name his newly formed undead under the moonlit tower. A massive explosion erupts from the tower, catching nearby cloaked figures off guard with a violent shockwave. Startled, the men question the sudden blast and the whereabouts of young Master Sons. From the smoke and debris, A dark silhouette emerges, signaling a shift in control and the appearance of Ryun. Ryun, now possessing Sun's body, steps forward with a corrupted aura, shocking his former allies. They call out to Suns, unaware of Ryun's control. He accuses them of betrayal from within the Phaeton family. Furious, he reveals his tortured state and the internal betrayal, demanding recognition of his suffering. An ally reveals they used an artifact to trap the undead, temporarily intending to escape with Ryun. He mounts a horse and instructs others to buy time while he returns to the family with reinforcements. The remaining soldiers stay behind, preparing for battle as Ryun is taken away. The group watches Ryun's escape under the moonlight, realizing the gravity of the situation. A flashback shows this as the final moment they witness young Master Suns before the possession. In the present, the Phaeton family's seventh circle mage, Pyres, is informed of the incident. Pyres receives a troubling report stating no trace of Ake was found inside the facility. He clenches the report tightly, sensing deception and foul play surrounding the incident. With sharp eyes and a menacing grin, he questions if the present soldiers are the only ones who know what happened. A subordinate nervously responds, but fear spreads as a red-armored warrior suddenly strikes one of them. Blood sprays across the room as the enforcer ruthlessly kills the witness without hesitation. Pyres coldly states that Sun's Phaeton's disappearance is a major issue, but there is something worse. He explains that if rumors spread about Phaeton's involvement in Ryun's sermon's kidnapping, it will become political. Another soldier attempts to stop Pyres, raising his weapon in warning. The soldier charges forward, but Pyres remains calm as the man falls injured from a defensive counter. Under the moonlight, Alejandro storms toward the facility. His presence shocks the guards and his aura radiates killing intent. He demands answers, threatening to slaughter everyone if Ryun isn't returned. He accuses Phaeton's forces of provoking war by entering his territory unannounced. Alejandro is convinced of Ryun's capture and demands his immediate release. With evidence of a hidden facility and Ryun's disappearance, tensions rise as both sides prepare for conflict. The investigation team from the Sermon family requests access to assist in the search, but Pyres immediately shuts them down. He firmly states that the investigation must proceed undisturbed. Refusing outside interference, both sides prepare their mana. Tension rising as conflict threatens to break out at any moment. Truno, observing from a distance, notes the unexpected arrival of Phaeton troops and fears escalation. Sena descends in flames, calling the observer a traitor for speaking out of turn. She warns that only the young master's order is keeping her from turning him to ashes. She commands silence unless the words concern Ryun's search, emphasizing the young master left a hidden trace. Skepticism arises about finding a trace in such a remote place, but Sina insists it's tied to Sermon's secret technique. The special refinement method should have produced residual energy detectable with the right skill. Using green magic, Sina scans the area, unleashing a powerful energy pulse that pierces the darkness. Her eyes lock onto something as a green beam reveals a concealed presence. She confirms it. Ryun's energy trail has been found deep in the woods. They discover Sun's Phaeton suspended in magical restraints surrounded by eerie green light. A message carved into his chest confesses to the kidnapping, directing blame to himself. Beside him lies a sealed magical letter, awaiting discovery. Sina checks for any signs of Ryun, but the only clue is a sealed letter near Sun's restrained body. She reads it aloud, recognizing Ryun's handwriting and personal message addressed to Sena. Ryun explains he had considered using Sun's body to destroy the Phaeton family from within, but feared detection due to their high-ranking mages. He writes that returning to Sermon openly could trigger war, and the family cannot withstand conflict now. Weighing his options, Ryun chooses a third path to vanish from both families for now. Before leaving, he writes this final letter, hoping Sina will understand his choice and silence any accusations. Truno asks what the letter says, and Sina gives a brief summary. They decide to return to the Sermon estate to regroup. As the letter burns in magical flames, a messenger bird soars into the sky toward its destination. At sunrise, a young boy named Lion races through a busy town square. He is summoned by the guild leader to meet someone. Sena, still convinced, believes it will be the key to finding Ryun's true whereabouts. Lion confirming he knows the young master's location. With a glowing green eye, he declares who is the young master. He is one other than the Dragon of Dre. 3 months after a major upheaval, the capital city of Patron basks in calm skies. Rumors spread that House Saren has fallen into disgrace with its last heir kidnapped and missing. Lion walks purposefully through the bustling city. His expression is unreadable, but his steps are firm. Vendors and townsfolk confused about House Saren's passive response, despite losing a family member and lacking any leads on the kidnapper. Some say the family leader, once known as the Good Dragon, has been missing for years. In the shadows of a narrow alley, a figure cloaked in black leaps toward the patent branch of the assassin guild Martin. Inside the guild, a red-haired woman remarks that the compensation given to House Saren seemed more valuable than the heir. Sapphire, the guild's branch leader, calls the entire situation boring. She has heard enough of House Saren's disgrace. Another guild member Duns mentioning that even the steward of House Saren, Truno, was executed for cooperating with the enemy. Duns recounts how Alejandro personally carried out Truno's execution. His decisive action shocked many. Sapphire expresses mild surprise, not expecting someone of Alejandro's stature to take such direct action himself. At that moment, Lion enters the guild. He was greeted by Duns. Lion waits inside the guild as Sapphire walks toward him. She carries a sealed letter, holding it with quiet gravity. Sapphire asks if he understands what the letter means. It's not just paper, it's a turning point. The letter is a formal recommendation for Lion to become an official member of the Martin Guild. A slight smile forms on his face. Lion reminds Sapphire that he still has one final test to complete before officially joining. Sapphire agrees with a smirk. She hands him the letter, hinting that while it might be his first real combat, she explains that Martin is the fourth largest guild, tied to the powerful Asin family, and recognizes Lion's quick progress as exceptional. Lion is praised as a prodigy who completed the guild's training in record time, becoming the youngest member in a century. Despite his success, he humbly compares himself to Sapphire, a second-class assassin and the branch leader. Sapphire notes his improved demeanor since their first meeting, hinting at the growth he's shown. As rain falls outside, Sapphire reflects that it has already been 2 months since Lion first arrived. He had joined quietly, entering a guild hidden from the public eye and rarely approached by outsiders. His sudden appearance and silent demeanor stood out, but even more so was what he did next. Sapphire remembers how Lion handed them a large sum of money and made a direct request. She was surprised by his calm attitude and purpose, even before the money was verified. Lion reminds her of her own policy, taking requests as long as the payment is clear, regardless of the client. Sapphire admits her actions weren't just about the money. Something about Lion intrigued her from the start. She knew she wouldn't meet another client like him, a ragged boy with a mission and enough gold to shock any guild. The strangest part wasn't the money. It was that Lion's assassination request had targeted no one else but himself. Lion takes the sealed letter and calmly requests to read it alone. Sapphire agrees and watches silently as Lion leaves the room alone. Sapphire is approached by a mysterious figure cloaked in shadows. The voice questions her motive for accepting Lion into the guild. Sapphire denies it was just instinct. Lion had officially joined Martin and completed training that normally takes years. All within a month, she emphasizes that Lion's abilities are real and verified, asking the figure Carl if the investigation on Lion was done thoroughly. Carl confirms the boy has no surname, identified by blue hair and green eyes, raised by an unknown master who later vanished. After his master disappeared, Lion came to the guild, offering himself as a test subject for his own assassination. His proposal revealed his skill, which accelerated his acceptance into the guild. Carl confirms all details came directly from Lion, and assures that everything he said is true. Carl even visited the remote home Lion once lived in. Signs showed someone had recently stayed there. Despite the evidence, Sapphire raises the real concern, the possibility that Lion is actually Ryun's sermon. Carl's sharp gaze doesn't deny it, but offers no answer yet. Sapphire recalls Ryun's sermon, who vanished around the same time Lion appeared. The matching age and timing raise suspicion, though Carl insists the chance they are the same is very low. He explains, Ryun had no mana, no strength, and no swordsmanship, completely unlike Lion. Carl refers to Ryun's sermon as the disgrace of his house, doubting someone so weak could ever match Lion's skill and talent. He offers to continue tracking Lion, but Sapphire refuses. She doesn't want to waste valuable resources on a baseless theory. Instead, she instructs Carl to find out more about the mysterious master who raised Lion, believing that person must be exceptional. Lion senses that Sapphire's intuition is dangerously sharp, nearly exposing his secret. He uses necromancer abilities to gather information from surrounding souls, a method that allows him to spy unnoticed. As he observes the conversation through summoned spirits, he opens his status window, revealing the name Ryun's sermon. Lion reviews his skills and stats. His training paid off. His new abilities allow him to evade even the sharpest detection. Body domination magic enhances more than his form. It conceals him from mana sensors and identity scans. His level has reached a point where he can deceive even guild skills, and on that day, a new ritual begins. Lion summons a new undead spirit. The ghost-like being hovers, cloaked in green and purple magic. He gives it a name, Kornak, binding it under his command with necromantic power. As its stats appear, the observers are stunned. It mirrors the structure of a player with detailed class attributes. Lion realizes Kornak is no ordinary summon. It's a growing undead, evolving like a phantom. He's shocked by hidden powers not listed in the description, deciding to analyze its system. Using advanced perception magic, Ryun scans Kornak's circuits. While inspecting the summoned circuit, a mysterious quest notification appears labeled Avenger, with unknown rewards and objectives. Lion is surprised by the appearance of a quest on the Dryad continent where such systems shouldn't exist. He realizes that defeating Ake triggered the quest and that the circuit fused skills like Hand of Death and Phantom to create Kornak. He accepts that feeding Kornak experience points is a burden now, but believes the summon will become useful later. Standing under the moonlight, Lion reflects that true growth means preparing for the future, not reacting to the present. Master Duns appears, interrupting Lion's thoughts and calling him to the final exam site. Lion explains he was thinking about becoming a full guild member and someday, a branch leader. Duns praises his ambition, then explains only one out of the 3 examinees will pass the final test. The exam will determine who earns the title of official assassin. The 3 candidates are introduced, Pala, Lip, and Lion. All 3 stand ready, each preparing to fight for their future. The final challenge begins now. Only one will succeed in eliminating the target and earn a place in the guild. Under the moonlit sky, Duns announces the start of the exam. His tone is stern. He instructs them to provide details on the target, initiating the mission. Lion, Pala, and Lip stand alert before him. Pala steps forward, stating the target's name is Broad Abe, age 47, a merchant with influence and 3 elite guards. Pala continues explaining the presence of a young mistress recently linked to the target, possibly a vulnerability. He notes that Broad Abe visits her room nightly at a time when his mercenary guards are away. Duns, impressed by the analysis from only a name, questions if this timing is reliable for today's exam. Duns pressures the trainees, asking whether they can handle the situation alone without guaranteed conditions. He explains the guild's purpose in gathering intelligence, emphasizing the test's unpredictability. Duns calls on Lion, possessed by Ryun, to share his findings next. Ryun avoids answering, aware that only one participant will pass the exam regardless of group effort. He refuses to share his information, prompting tension between the teammates. Pala protests, but Ryun dismisses camaraderie, noting it was never part of their assassin training. Duns confirms Ryun's stance as correct, acknowledging the brutal truth of the assassin world. He reminds them that while individual skill is important, using training effectively is essential for success. The lesson is clear. In the world of assassins, survival requires using or disposing of others as necessary. Duns initiates the live exam, allowing the trainees to freely carry out the assassination mission under the full moon's light. Duns watches the participants disperse into the night, quietly praising Ryun's potential. Elsewhere, assassins gather at the Martin branch. A leader expresses doubt over the mission targeting Ryun. The mission's condition is clear. If Ryun survives, he must be accepted as a special trainee into Martin's Painton branch. The older assassins scoff at the condition, thinking the request absurd and dangerous. When tasked with locating Ryun, all present trainees fail to find him in time. Their failure is admitted openly. Ryun's traps and countermeasures exceeded expectations and overwhelmed the trainees. Sapphire, despite her initial doubts, agrees to start Ryun's training, keeping her promise after the failed pursuit. Duns reflects on how difficult it is to become a Martin assassin and acknowledges that Lion's trial is the most difficult ever. Under moonlight, Pala makes his move, sprinting silently across rooftops to infiltrate the target's mansion. He crashes through a window with precision, initiating his solo assault and drawing the attention of the guards, though he disabled key defenses. A second wave of mercenaries emerges, overwhelming him with unexpected reinforcements. In another area, Ryun remains hidden in the shadows as guards chase after Pala. Misled by his movements, Ryun uses Pala's reckless diversion to his advantage, slipping deeper into the enemy base undetected. Though he mocks Pala's mistake, Ryun internally admits he would have exposed his teammate. The target, Broad Abe, has survived countless assassination attempts by hiding in a surprising location. Every time danger approached, he fled to the one place no one dared attack, his legitimate wife's bedroom. Inside, the wife Kelly storms forward barefoot, furious, her patience exhausted. Blaming her husband for bringing assassins home, Broad Abe pleads, claiming innocence. He insists the room is secured and that the attack isn't his fault. Meanwhile, Pala observes from the shadows. He notes increased guard presence and confirms a squad of regular soldiers ahead. Evaluating the risk, Pala draws his blade and prepares to break through directly, considering it a worthy gamble. Abe tries to calm Kelly, warning her of the weapon's danger and urging her to drop it. Ryun, still hiding in the rafters, watches the situation escalate between the couple. Kelly accuses Abe of betrayal, reminding him of her sacrifices and accusing him of stealing funds from her family. She exposes his lie. Abe had used her family's money to buy gifts for his mistress. Crossing the final line in a fit of rage, Kelly stabs Abe with the knife, drawing blood and shocking even Ryun. As she steps back, trembling, the blade slips from her hand, and realization begins to sink in. Blood covers the floor. Kelly stares at the mess, murmuring in horror as guilt overtakes her. She screams uncontrollably, having just murdered her husband in a blind fury. A servant rushes to the room, calling out in panic, while Kelly stands alone, covered in blood. Ryun observes the result from a distance. Though no blade touched the target, he still died, killed by his own wife's hand. He wonders if the mission can be considered a failure or success, as it wasn't completed through direct action. Pala notes that he hasn't seen Ryun return, raising doubts about the boy's role in the mission's conclusion. Pala reflects quietly. Alrock wasn't killed by them. His death came from within his own household. Ryun stands beside Duns and Lip, calmly facing the dawn as if he had always been present. Lip glares suspiciously at Lion, unsettled by his sudden appearance and composure. Lip questions internally why Ryun returned earlier than her despite entering last. She begins doubting whether Ryun even entered the mansion with them at all. Meanwhile, Pala shares that he survived because the mercenaries unexpectedly turned on each other during the chaos. Duns announces the end of the test but declares that the assassination was still a success. He reveals that Lion completed the mission, shocking both Lip and Pala. Even though Alrock was killed by his wife, Duns confirms it was due to Ryun's manipulation. Duns states plainly that it was Ryun's doing that turned the wife into the killer. He begins to explain that Ryun used an unknown method to influence the outcome of the mission. The scene flashes to Ryun casting a spell that manipulated the wife into committing the murder herself. Master Duns recalled how Lion manipulated events so that Alrock's own wife became his killer. Curious, Master Duns questioned Ryun, who now possessed Lion's body, about the strategy. Ryun silenced doubts and promised to explain everything, ready to share the mechanics behind his success. Ryun began his explanation, revealing that the key to the plot was Alrock's troubled marriage. He clarified that the path to the solution lay in exploiting the tension between Alrock and his first wife. Using the city's internal affairs as a tool, Ryun confessed he had targeted Alrock with specific precision. Ryun confirmed the rumors about Alrock's infidelity and secret mistress, details he'd already validated independently. While Pala deliberated on possible assassination plans, Ryun had already set his own plan into motion without delay. When questioned about his scope, Ryun clarified he never limited his investigation to just Alrock alone. He had profiled all potentially dangerous figures in the city, anticipating future assassination attempts against any of them. By befriending rumor-sensitive merchants, he, saving time and allowing room for tailored strategies. Among his findings, one stood out: Alrock's wife Kelly, who bore a hidden grudge yet hadn't acted on it. Ryun approached Kelly, knowing her fragile mental state was caused by Alrock's betrayal. He planted the idea of using an assassin, framing it as her own decision. While she wrestled with her emotions, despite her hatred, Kelly had never intended to kill him. Ryun advised Kelly to bolster security with mercenaries, ensuring Alrock would feel threatened enough to seek safety. As predicted, Alrock retreated to the most secure location, his first wife's room, out of fear. Ryun added that if Kelly framed the chaos as an affair between the mistress and a secret lover, Alrock would be cornered emotionally. Alrock would seek comfort in Kelly, believing she was his safest refuge. Weakened by years of betrayal and alcohol, Kelly was easily swayed by the hopeful fantasy of reconciliation. However, before the assassination could proceed, Ryun handed Kelly one final piece of critical information. That revelation was the truth. Alrock had used money from Kelly's family to support his mistress. What he claimed were business expenses had been funding secret gifts and meetings. Master Duns and others realized the entire examination scenario had unknowingly followed Ryun's calculated manipulation. Despite doubts about Kelly's resolve, Ryun admitted to giving her a final push. He had slipped a potion into Alrock's liquor, prepared water laced with alchemy for the mercenaries. The potion took effect right on time, weakening any resistance that could stop the assassination. Pala explained that the potion disabled mercenaries without direct confrontation. Though not trained in assassination, Ryun made the effort to ensure his teammates wouldn't die. With the false financial report, the potion's effect, Kelly finally killed Alrock. Ryun reminded the group that assassination didn't always mean striking the fatal blow. It could mean orchestrating the outcome. Duns congratulated Lion, now revealed as Ryun, for passing the exam and securing additional compensation from Kelly. Ryun revealed that only they knew Alrock's killer was Kelly, not the assassins. Pala was stunned, realizing Ryun's methods placed him at a level far above hers. Lip reflected that competing with him was unrealistic. It would be smarter to aim for second place. Master Dun sent Lip and Pala back to the guild, requesting a private word with Lion. After the others departed, Duns asked Ryun if he truly grasped what he'd done. He condemned the emotional weight placed on Kelly, who now bore the guilt of killing her own husband. Duns reminded Ryun that their guild trained assassins, not monsters lacking empathy. Ryun explained that Kelly had already overseen the silent disposal of Alrock's many mistresses. Alrock's ruinous lifestyle, debts, and indulgence had forced Kelly into the role of enforcer. Though she held power, Kelly had never used it to stop Alrock until this moment. Ryun concluded that the deaths were always made to appear as disappearances, leaving families powerless. He clarified that though Kelly never asked for her husband's death, payment depended on Alrock's elimination. To Ryun, the morality of the target or client was irrelevant. Only the result mattered in an assassination. Master Duns questioned whether assassins could act without conscience if their actions led to such emotional destruction. Ryun calmly countered, stating that assassins fulfill requests, regardless of methods or emotional costs. Kelly's pain was real, but it didn't erase the fact that assassins made her husband's death possible. Ryun explained that true change would only come through power. He urged Duns to grow stronger and shift the system at its roots if he wanted justice. As Ryun walked away, Duns stood in silence, left to reflect on a guild that followed orders without changing anything. Ryun, in Lion's body, arrives at the guild building to receive his results, after taking the assassin's qualification exam. He is congratulated and informed that he passed. The guild officially recognizes him as a 5th-grade assassin. Sapphire certifies his new rank. Ryun receives system notifications confirming the quest completion and his level up. With his new rank, Ryun also gains the respect of key figures like Lip, Pala, and even Duns. Sapphire tells him he can now accept official Martin contracts, and he can request a promotion. She explains that one way to promote is by completing a single contract worth at least 30 gold. Ryun surprises Sapphire by quoting the promotion requirements before she finishes listing them. He confidently confirms the rules and suddenly shifts the topic to a recent assignment involving Alrock. With everyone watching, he demands to know how much Sapphire received for that assignment. Cornered, Sapphire admits she received 10 gold upfront and 10 upon completion for the Alrock job. Ryun exposes the bribe she took from Kelly to hide the circumstances of Alrock's death. Duns, stunned by the revelation, reacts with disbelief as the room grows tense. Ryun calmly acknowledges it was a test, but insists he rightfully earned the payment and contract. He asserts that he handled everything, accepting, executing, and resolving. Facing Sapphire directly, he declares that this one contract fulfills the condition for his first promotion. Ryun firmly states his name and rank, then formally requests a promotion to 4th-grade assassin, standing before Sapphire. His confident demand stuns the crowd. Sapphire steps forward with a menacing aura, her tone shifting as she calls him arrogant. Despite her glare, Ryun stands tall. The pressure in the room intensifies as all eyes fall on him and his boldness. Sapphire acknowledges Ryun's performance but warns him against overstepping the organization's procedures and pride. She explains that 4th-grade rank carries weight among assassins and must be earned through effort and recognition. Other assassins watch closely as she lectures him about protocol and the importance of gradual. Sapphire criticizes him for bypassing the system and warns that such actions invite enemies. She claims she'll ignore the request, implying he should rest after his first mission. Ryun rejects the suggestion and firmly repeats his intent to proceed with the promotion. Sapphire bursts in anger, accusing him of lacking tact. Duns intervenes, asking to share his opinion. He calmly states that Ryun is qualified for the 4th-grade promotion exam. Duns explains that Ryun isn't arrogant, but rather holding back a portion of his true capability during the test. When Sapphire questions this, Duns reveals that Ryun never showcased his raw physical ability during the assessment. A flashback highlights Ryun's swift and powerful movements, unassisted by strategy or tricks. Duns praises Ryun's refined assassination technique, emphasizing his physical mastery as the true core of his strength. Lip and Pala discuss how Ryun passed the test using only strategy, without relying on raw strength. They note that the 4th-grade test is much harsher, impossible to pass without physical power. Others agree, recalling how he had tricked them during recruitment, prompting Sapphire to finally allow the promotion exam. Sapphire warns that even skilled assassins face death in the 4th-grade trial and asks if he's truly prepared. Without hesitation, Ryun affirms his readiness. Their handshake seals the decision. His advancement trial is now official and unavoidable. Later that evening, at a tavern, the team reflects on Ryun's boldness over a shared meal and drinks. Duns chides him for rushing, but recognizes that he must have a reason behind the reckless request. The group expresses concern, but they trust Ryun has a solid plan moving forward. A waitress informs them that the next test won't happen for at least a month or two. Duns offers training, but Ryun declines, saying he plans to rest and leave the guild temporarily. He confirms that as an official member, he's permitted to go beyond the branch's jurisdiction. Duns agrees, though he seems curious about what Ryun intends to do outside the guild. Ryun promises to return before the exam, flashing a confident smile. That night they celebrate together, but someone warns Ryun not to drink too much despite the occasion. Late at night, a young boy enjoys rare leisure at an inn, aware that his days of peace are numbered. He discusses future missions, knowing that advancing as an assassin means constant movement and danger. Since the next target is a powerful branch head, he decides to leave before rest becomes impossible. The boy arrives at a cliff, staring into a cursed territory known as the Dark Zone. Recalling its deadly reputation, he smirks, confident in what he's about to face. Elsewhere, a noble convoy rushes down the road, unaware their path is about to cross his... A red-haired knight notices a lone figure on the roadside and halts his horse. Curious and cautious, he approaches, asking why the cloaked boy is there. The boy silently prepares a reply, adjusting his hood with feigned weakness. Feigning injury, the boy claims a twisted ankle and begs for transport to the next village. He insists he could die without help, waiting all night for someone to come. The knight, suspicious, questions the boy's boldness and challenges his motives. The boy subtly mocks the knight's claims, hinting he's not truly on urgent business. He points out the knight's detour from the main road in calm speech. Finally, the boy pleads with sparkling eyes, asking to be spared just this once. The knight hesitates silently, torn between duty and compassion, while the boy awaits his answer. He relents, ordering the child to be taken into the carriage, but is immediately met with protest. A compromise is reached. The boy may ride on horseback instead. The boy mounts the horse behind the captain, tightening his grip slightly as they move. Another knight teases the captain, noting how natural the boy looks riding with him. When asked his name, the boy replies confidently Ryun, from Phaeton, owing his life to a certain young lady. The captain warns Ryun to be grateful, but Ryun internally reveals this was all part of his plan. He had intentionally followed the Rose family's route, knowing their emblem and ties. Upon discovering they'd flee due to their head's death, he resolved to accompany them. The Rose family's guards were once mercenaries, knighted only recently to aid the young lady. The fair fall was linked to House Sermon, something Ryun hears confirmed aloud. He quietly reacts, keeping his suspicions sharp and unspoken. Ryun had researched the exile and death in advance, collecting details on the Sermon connection. Rumors claimed Sermon assassinated the Rose head to cover up past collusion. Eyes wide, Ryun is stunned and possibly involved far deeper than others suspect. Under moonlight, the group makes camp in a quiet forest clearing, preparing for the night guards take turns watching while others rest beside the fire, ensuring safety. Ryun quietly observes from a distance, maintaining his cover while staying alert. He reflects on the day's findings, concluding that the Rose family's downfall stems from a political conflict. The root lies in a recent dispute between House Sermon and House Phaeton, rival factions in separate kingdoms. The connection began when the Rose heir became a knight for Sermon, but later died fighting monsters in the Dark Zone. In honor of that sacrifice, Sermon promised support to the Rose family, raising their status. This rise angered the Aeontine family, who aligned with Phaeton to halt Rose's growth. Blaming the Rose family of espionage, the opposition pushed for the assassination of their head and exile of the heir. Those aware of the truth were few, only loyalists, and the newly knighted Kennel knew the full story. Lady Signton Rose, now in hiding, holds onto the remnants of her family's dignity. Kano gathered loyal followers in haste, knowing exile would be long and dangerous. Late at night, Sainton Rose quietly leaves her tent, her steps heavy with emotion. She kneels alone in the cold, weighed down by sorrow for all that's been lost. Her grief reveals the tragedy. House Sermon had fallen, and its last survivors bear the pain in silence. By the fire, Captain Kennel and his knights rest. Speaking of House Sermon's loyalty and sacrifices, Kennel lifts his drink, honoring the fallen house that gave everything to support them. Old Knight offers soup to Ryun, the disguised heir of Sermon, who accepts it without revealing his identity. Ryun listens as the knights talk, hiding how closely he's bound to the house they mourn. He questions if it's right for a child like him to join them after begging for help. Kennel assures him it's fine, relieved after finally expressing feelings he held back. The knights express concern for Lady Sainton, unaware of the true crisis ahead. Neither Camille nor the others realize how serious the situation is. Rion, sitting apart, senses the danger rapidly approaching them. Elsewhere, the Annett family conspires with Phaeton to eliminate the Rose family. Their target is the brutal second son of Rose, notorious for rejected assassination contracts. Feared and heavily guarded, he remains a dangerous force set to strike. Rion suspects a threat is drawing near, possibly the dangerous second son of the Rose family. He silently patrols the perimeter, confirming the presence of someone tailing their group rather than confront them. He decides it's better to plant traps to slow the pursuers. Returning to camp, Rion excuses his dirty clothes, claiming he slipped. The knights suggest he should have asked for help, but Rion brushes it off. Internally, he confirms the traps are set and his purpose with them is nearly complete. Lying down, Rion mentally closes the mission, calling it payment for their kindness. At dawn, the group prepares to part ways near Dorun village. Rion claims to be a peddler buying monster materials from Dorun to sell in Phaeton. The knights question his story and Rion offers a potion on behalf of Sainton Rose. He explains she noticed their injuries and wanted to help. Camille is surprised, realizing her gesture came from a place of gratitude. Sainton Rose watches from her carriage as they depart. Camille explains her thanks, and Rion quietly accepts it. Though Camille offers future help, Rion declines and walks away alone once more. A knight comments that Captain Camille, though rough, would have helped Rion regardless of orders. As the group leaves, Rion walks alone, potion in hand, quietly observing his path. He opens the potion bottle, preparing for what lies ahead. Rion drinks the potion while walking, then accidentally drops a few beads from his pouch. Suddenly, hoofbeats echo from the distance. Something fast is approaching. A mounted group of armed men charges toward him with great speed and dust trailing behind. Rion narrows his eyes and counts 6 pursuers riding fast. He quickly identifies 2 mercenaries, 2 novice swordsmen, and a troublesome mage. Among them is a cloaked nobleman, Garuda Asani, the brutal second son of the Asani family. As Garuda leads the charge, Rion calmly assesses their formation. He notes the traps didn't hold them and regrets the trouble caused. Frustrated, he mutters that even drinking the potion might not have been worth it. While thinking, Rion senses something strange and pauses mid-step. His confusion grows as he begins to feel an unexpected effect from the potion. Surprised, he mutters, "Huh?" As something stirs within him, Rion realizes the potion Sainton gave him is expensive, worth at least 20 silver. He chuckles, surprised they'd entrust something so valuable to a boy they just met. Looking at the carriage, he wonders why Sainton, fleeing for her life, would still think to help him. A magic circle expands beneath him as he invokes power from the spectral realm. 2 ghostly warriors form before him, their energy pulsating as they awaken. Rion names one of them, Cormac, assigning it its first mission as the fight begins. 2 cloaked figures descend from a glowing green portal, arriving on a foreign land. One of them, focused and alert, looks ahead with determination as their mission begins. Elsewhere, a convoy of knights and a carriage rides through an open road, unaware of what awaits. A red-haired knight gives orders to increase their travel speed, sensing urgency in the situation. He informs the lady in the carriage to endure the rough ride as they hasten. The knights are puzzled by their captain's sudden seriousness and accelerated pace. The captain shouts someone is pursuing them, prompting the knights to ready themselves. The border is within reach and they rush towards safety. Guards at the checkpoint are informed to prepare for entry and provide protection. The captain orders the others to proceed, choosing to stay behind and buy time. He charges back, prepared to face the enemies alone. Though once disgraced, he still fights as a knight of the Rose family. A group of masked riders chases with speed and intent. The enemy leader narrows his eyes as he notices interference. The knight blocks their path, demanding they retreat immediately from the Rose family's carriage. Sir Ronan warns the enemy riders to retreat or face death. Their silver-haired leader, masked and arrogant, mocks Ronan's threat. Ronan stands firm, undeterred by the insult, defending House Rose's honor. The silver-haired commander shouts, angry that their plans were disrupted. He orders his men to kill everyone except the girl before she reaches the border. The assassins charge ahead, moving swiftly to intercept the carriage. Sir Ronan moves to block them, sword drawn and ready. A sudden blast of magic knocks him back, an ambush by a hidden mage. He quickly realizes the enemy mage is high tier and extremely dangerous. The enemy reveals a second warrior to assist the ambush. Ronan is stunned. It's Commander Ciso, a former Rose ally. He demands answers from Ciso, confused by the betrayal. Ciso admits selling out House Rose for gold after their fall. Mocking Ronan's loyalty, Ciso attacks without hesitation. Ronan clashes swords with him. asking if he abandoned his knight's pride. Kenil threatens the masked riders, stating he will kill them all if they refuse to retreat. The enemy leader laughs off his warning and mocks Kenil's authority. Despite being outnumbered, Kenil holds his ground, defending Sainton's escape. The silver-haired man, revealed as their superior, shouts orders to his men. He declares they must kill everyone except Sainton before she reaches the border. His subordinates launch into action. Galloping with murderous intent, Kenil charges forward to stop them, but is hit by a magical ambush. Caught off guard, he's injured and realizes a high-circle mage is among the enemies. The powerful mage rides calmly, wielding dangerous spells from horseback. Another figure appears, Commander Saiso, formerly of House Rose. Kenil is shocked by the betrayal and demands to know why. Saiso smirks, preparing to fight his former comrade without hesitation. Saiso admits he betrayed the family for money after its downfall. He mocks Kenil's loyalty and strikes with force. Kenil fights back, accusing Saiso of abandoning all knightly honor. The knights Gaia and Shaku stand bloodied near the carriage, breathing heavily after a fierce battle. Realizing their power is inferior, the enemy mocks them, calling their skills lower than beginner knights. As the situation escalates, a firm voice interrupts. Sainton steps out of the carriage. Sainton calls Gaia and Shaku by name. Acknowledging their loyal efforts, she draws a hidden blade, threatening to end her own life if captured. With resolve in her eyes, she warns the attackers that their leader will not forgive them. If she dies, a blood-soaked carriage lies in ruins, hinting at a deadly ambush. The knight Shaku stands near the wreckage, confirming the death of his comrade Gaian. Shaku identifies the survivor as Sainton Rose, the last descendant of House Rose. Her appearance confirms she's the one they've been seeking. Sainton emerges from hiding. She acknowledges the knight's efforts and offers herself up in exchange for her people's safety, asking them to be spared. Sainton warns that if they refuse her offer, she will die with her people. Her defiance and desperation are clear. She presses her threat further, knowing their master wouldn't want her dead. Shaku, however, dismisses her claim of nobility. He coldly states that unless she arrives in Duran, she holds no noble title and therefore has no authority to negotiate. Shaku declares he isn't bound to follow her will and raises his blade to strike. Sainton is shocked, but Shaku lunges with killing intent, ignoring her status. Her knights cry out in panic, realizing their young lady is in danger. Sainton winces, anticipating death, but an unknown figure suddenly appears. The mysterious fighter violently attacks Shaku, breaking through his guard and injuring him. Sainton watches in surprise as the enemy is struck down brutally by the assassin's precise counter. Shaku, wounded and furious, demands the stranger's identity. The assassin mocks him, stating he was paid up front to protect Sainton, making her his employer. Sainton, confused, questions if he's truly an assassin from Martong, signaling deeper plans at play. Shaku is shocked to see a Martong assassin siding with House Rose and questions the assassin's motive. Sainton ponders whether he belongs to Hassan's lineage. She offers 30 gold coins for his help. The assassin accepts, but bluntly remarks that the amount is far too low. He stands beside her and states that 30 gold wouldn't even cover a single enchanted dagger from his arsenal. The assassin reveals his identity as Petra, former knight commander of House Rose, now allied with the Alkin family. He mocks Shaku, saying 30 gold is too little to face a third. Circle mage Shaku, enraged, calls him a bastard. With rising tension, Sainton warns the others that if House Rose falls now, they will never regain their influence. Sainton declares this isn't the time to hesitate and urges the assassin to act in her family's name. She tells him she's ready to give whatever he wants in return for their protection. Hearing her words, the assassin activates his power with resolve and prepares to attack. Shaku mocks him, saying true assassins don't show their faces, but the assassin counters only cowards hide. Green energy surrounds him as he launches forward, cutting through the air with lethal speed in a blink. He lands a devastating blow on Shaku, striking him with full force. As Shaku collapses, the assassin explains this job justified revealing himself. Sainton watches silently as the assassin states this is his first official contract as a Martong assassin. The price? The entire fortune of the Rose family. The assassin resolves to build a worthy reputation under the Martin Guild. Shaku, badly wounded but defiant, shouts not to underestimate swordsmen like them. Shaku warns they won't fall easily. The assassin silently prepares for another strike, unfazed by the threat. As the assassin closes in, Shaku calls out to his brother to stop pretending and fight back. Shaku's brother leaps forward with a blade, screaming to kill the assassin. Their synchronized attack surprises the assassin, but he evades swiftly. He regains his stance as the two brothers regroup, prepared to fight together. Sainton's knights warn him not to lower his guard. Their enemies use unpredictable sword-swapping tactics. The brothers try to overwhelm the assassin with rapid exchanges, but he activates a skill called body domination. Green energy surrounds him as he prepares to retaliate with enhanced power and speed. Another ability, body acceleration, activates. The assassin moves too fast for the enemies to track. Chaku questions whether it is illusion or magic, unable to sense the assassin's real position. The enemy is struck mid-confusion, as green flashes distort their vision and weaken their stance. Despite Chaku's warning to stay sharp, the assassin dances around them. He taunts them, stating they've already lost the chance to win. His expression hardens as he declares, "You're too late." Ryun launches a surprise attack, surrounding the enemy with green energy as he moves at high speed, catching them off guard. One soldier tries to follow his movements, but Ryun disappears in a flash, leaving behind only a trail of energy. Ryun's expression shows confidence as he prepares his next move while the enemies begin to panic. The enemy captain questions the illusion before him, unsure if it's magic or a trick. Despite swinging wildly, one soldier is easily outmaneuvered and struck down by Ryun. The captain tries to organize a group attack, but Ryun is already in position to strike again. Ryun activates a curse skill that overwhelms the captain's senses, shocking him with its effects. The cursed soldier screams as Ryun inflicts pain, launching him into the air. Ryun delivers the final blow, stating it's revenge for the fallen Rose family. As the sun rises, a caravan travels across the desert, a pink-haired knight hurries toward the camp, calling out urgently. He asks the group if everyone is safe, concern visible on his face. Saintin runs to him, relieved to see Kennel alive. She thanks him, saying she's happy he's unharmed. Ryun watches silently as the others reunite, hiding his emotions beneath his hood. Kennel explains that a mysterious boy suddenly appeared and helped them eliminate Rose family traitors. They confirm that the boy not only defeated the enemies but also captured their leader. Suspicious, one of them wonders if the boy possesses special abilities as he begins casting a spell. Ryun activates a large magical seal to imprison the traitor using powerful spatial magic. The traitor is forcefully pulled into the spell, screaming in pain as the seal closes. Kennel realizes the boy might be Ryan, someone they believed was lost. Ryun continues to fight, dispatching soldiers with ease, using deadly techniques. Kennel suspects Ryun's strength comes from Martin, a feared assassin faction. A captured enemy offers bribes, trying to negotiate his life in desperation. Saintin accuses the enemy of using dirty tactics and harming innocent lives. Ryun unleashes a brutal counterattack, cutting down the traitor without mercy. He warns others of the consequences of threatening House Rose. Ryun reminds Saintin of the horrors Martong inflicted on her people. He proposes they work together to track down the remaining enemies. Though hesitant, Saintin agrees, revealing she knows where the Rose survivors are hiding. Ryun proposes forming a secret contract with Saintin, asking her to submit an official request to Martin Guild. Saintin agrees quietly, and the group prepares to depart for their next destination. Ryun assures them the Martin Guild will erase all evidence and fabricate a believable cover story. Kennel agrees to follow the plan, impressed by Ryun's way of handling problems calmly. As they speak, Ryun silently activates his magic one last time before departure. A large magic circle appears under him, and in a flash, he vanishes before the group. The knights are surprised by Ryun's disappearance and realize his skills surpass expectations. Kennel suspects the creature Ryun summoned wasn't a normal undead being. He recalls the distinct features of the summoned creature, noting it felt far too intelligent and powerful. Kennel reveals the name necromancer legend Veda, a being surrounded by myth and destruction. As he speaks, an image of the feared figure rises, cloaked in deathly aura and surrounded by skulls. He declares the possibility that this boy, Ryun, might hold Veda's legacy. The sinister aura around the figure forces the ground to tremble. In his hand, he holds a cursed relic glowing with spectral blue light, and shadows stir beneath his feet. From beneath the surface, a tide of skulls rises, forming a wall of the dead. Each one whispers the name of a long-feared legend. Veda, his presence alone, revives terror once buried deep within Drea continent's history. Observers, shaken by the aura, speculate that the man they see may not be Veda himself, but possibly his disciple, which still poses grave danger. Saintin reacts with shock, recognizing the name Veda. The possibility ignites a wave of fear, knowing the consequences of such power resurfacing. Ryun is revealed, once thought to be lost. His half-hidden face confirms his connection to forbidden magic, and his survival raises more questions than answers. A knight recalls rumors of an undead that could fight high-level mages and swordmasters at once. Unlike anything they had seen, Ryun's undead form exceeds even those tales. Saintin solemnly whispers Veda's name again, Despite the victory, dread fills her voice. His legacy cannot be allowed to spread. She commands everyone to remain silent about the events, not to conceal the death of the enemy, but to avoid awakening the past tied to Veda's name. Keneal argues gently. To him, the one who saved them was no monster, just a man who accepted a request for a meal and a potion. Saintin's thoughts shift from fear to strategy. Acknowledging the possible legacy of Veda within Ryun, she realizes the danger it represents. That knowledge, if exposed, could shift power balances. With determined eyes, Saintin declares that Ryun's existence must be concealed. Revealing his identity would risk drawing enemies and attention they could not handle. Keneal observes her calm intensity. She no longer carries the despair from her exile. Her posture and voice now reflect purpose and leadership. Despite injuries, Saintin urges Keneal to act. She needs him to return to Patanon and submit a falsified request that makes the recent death appear ordered by someone else. Pointing to Garuda's corpse, she explains it's too late to prepare for more attacks. They must follow Leon's advice and move swiftly under the cover of confusion. Keneal hesitates, but she reassures him. There will be no further threats, and their only path is to act decisively with what remains. She believes in Ryun's warning and trusts it fully. Her command is clear, to claim a stable position in the Daron kingdom. Their mission is now political as much as it is personal. The soldiers and Keneal respond with silent determination. Saintin's words spark resolve in all of them. House Rose will not fade into obscurity. Keneal urges the group into action. Their pace quickens, and together they move under Leon's magic. With each step, their will to reclaim honor strengthens. Ryun stands alone, forming a teleportation spell. Magic swirls at his command, signaling the close of one phase and the start of another. The battle is over, but the consequences are only beginning. He thinks of Saintin of House Rose, the noblewoman whose resolve caught his attention. She is not just a figure of status. Her presence, like her name, conceals something sharper beneath the surface. Just like the flower, Saintin carries hidden strength. Ryun sees her thorns now: quiet determination, quick judgment, and ambition to rise. He knows the moment will soon come when those thorns will no longer be hidden. Ryun's memory returns to a time that shaped the world. The emergence of black mages. Their collective ambition shattered the peace, unleashing power across the continent. Driven by obsession, black mages used blood to summon beings from the demon realm. Their ritual marked the first strike that ignited widespread destruction. With power unchecked, they seized entire kingdoms. Magic once kept in shadows was now a weapon of domination, aiming to merge two worlds through forbidden arts. As expected, war followed. Cities burned under the weight of demonic spells. Chaos spread across the continent like wildfire. Both humans and demons took sides. Black mages fought with each other, each faction aiming to wipe out the others completely, tearing apart Drea. In the heart of that destruction, Veda emerged. A force neither ally nor enemy expected, one whose presence would alter the battlefield and history itself. Veda stood at the front lines, a necromancer unlike any other. Though necromancy was feared as dark magic, his approach brought healing and protection rather than destruction. He restored victims of black magic and summoned the dead only to purge evil from the battlefield. Even amidst doubt, his actions shifted the perception of necromancers. While some feared his power, most saw him as a savior. His relentless efforts against black mages earned him a reputation close to sainthood. Veda's undead army was unlike any other. Each being had willingly chosen to fight again, even after death, out of loyalty to him. Their strength was said to surpass ordinary undead. Veda's legend redefined necromancy, changing how the continent viewed death and power. The war eventually ended with the fall of the black mages. Veda rejected all rewards and vanished quietly, his final act shrouded in mystery. Reflecting on the aftermath, Ryun knew showing the power of Kornak had reinforced his identity and furthered his plan. He also acknowledged Saintin Rose. Her swift decisions and leadership in chaos revealed potential far beyond what he had expected. With a final glance into the night, Ryun left silently, determined to one day return to Daron. His journey was not over, only postponed. Ryun reflects on his decision to intervene. Saving Saintin wasn't part of his plan, but the moment marked more than a detour. It became an investment in her future. Using Leon's name, Ryun ensured the credit for victory would go toward rebuilding a lost reputation. It was a calculated move, meant to shift the world's attention away from him. Though House Rose holds little influence now, Saintin stands out. Her presence, strength, and decisiveness signal a chance for revival. Ryun quietly hopes to meet her again. The night deepens as Ryun crosses a snowy landscape. He passes the remnants of past battles, each step bringing him closer to a destination untouched by most. Standing atop a cliff, he gazes down at a pit glowing with ominous blue light. This is no ordinary place. It is where danger and opportunity meet. Ryun descends toward the void below. He has arrived at the entry to the 12th floor, the beginning of the dark zone. His next trial awaits. Ryun descends into a mysterious underground world, surrounded by darkness and a faint blue glow. The shattered surface above marks the depth he has reached. A swirling blue energy guides him further down a spiral path into an unknown depth. The flow is unnatural. He finally lands on a jagged ledge, unsure how far he has traveled. Despite the records suggesting the area had collapsed, Ryun sees remnants of a forgotten structure. The environment is disorienting, a sunken dungeon layered like a maze. It was once a massive underground tower, and now only a few dared to map its zones. Only floors 7 to 12 had ever been explored. The earlier 6 were legends spoken of but never reached. As Ryun continues, he approaches the denser regions where the danger becomes more tangible. A wave of creatures emerges. The deeper he goes, the stronger and more numerous the monsters become. He faces a horde of feral goblins. The 12th floor becomes a battlefield of mutated beasts and savage goblins. Even orcs lurk in the shadows. Ryun moves swiftly, neutralizing threats with calculated strikes and confident movement. His knowledge from the Sermon family proves useful. Past studies and records of the dungeon give him the upper hand. Each battle sharpens him, blood spills, but it is a price Ryun accepts. Here, deep in the forgotten layers, lies the best opportunity to grow stronger. Rather than roaming the Drea continent where monsters are scattered, Ryun prefers zones with concentrated enemy populations. These areas are far more efficient for rapid combat and growth. Among these dense areas, the dark zones stand out. Despite their dangers, they are ideal for Ryun. Creatures there gather in large numbers, offering an uninterrupted flow of combat opportunities. As Ryun slays a towering monster, he notes that traditional tools like maps and compasses fail in this chaotic space. Only through manipulating mana can one navigate this hostile, unstable terrain. On the 12th floor, Ryun quickly gains experience. The zone serves as a training ground for newcomers, and its maze-like layout deters most from entering. With no one around to interfere, he unleashes a power he had never used before. Necromancy casting, raise dead. He revives the corpses around him to fight as his allies. The newly risen undead respond immediately. Twisted by green mana, their forms are wild and unstable. Despite their appearance, they move with sharp purpose. Ryun summons even stronger undead using the ability Death's Hand. Though weak individually, the undead work as an effective barrier, absorbing damage and shielding their master. The effect strengthens as the ability sustains them longer and enhances their power. Ryun stands at the center, calm and calculating as he watches the army form. With dozens of monsters surrounding him, Ryun prepares for another wave surrounded by undead under his control. He readies himself to tear through the next horde without hesitation. The 12th floor remains cloaked in a thick, eerie fog, but Ryun navigates it calmly. His undead army strikes down wave after wave of monsters that charge from the shadows. Despite the chaos, Ryun observes without concern. The goblins and beasts scream and fall, easily overwhelmed by the undead under his command. Now seated calmly, Ryun counts 30 undead fighters around him. Though they surround him protectively, he knows this is far from his past strength and far from his true potential. With a subtle command, he releases part of the army. As the corpses fall, he questions whether 30 to 50 is truly his limit in this weakened state. He reflects on his former power, once commanding tens of thousands. The undead were his weapons, puppets on strings he moved with ease. Though each one strained his mana reserves, his physical and mental capacity remains intact. But it's the lack of mana that restricts him. His strength means little without enough energy to sustain his growing army. Ryun acknowledges that increasing mana is crucial. Though he came here to train, his real goal now is restoring that missing resource, the key to unlocking his true abilities. To accomplish this, he needs to defeat the Floor Guardian, the boss monster that rules this level. Only by defeating it can he absorb the energy he seeks. With his eyes set on the towering beast ahead, Ryun prepares to engage. The battle ahead isn't just about survival. It is a necessary step to reclaiming the power he once wielded. Deep within the narrow cliff passage, Ryun breathes steadily after a relentless slaughter. He reflects on the sheer number of monsters he has defeated so far, far surpassing ordinary hunts. The battlefield beneath him is littered with goblins and orcs. With every swing, his undead grows stronger. Ryun estimates his kills now number in the hundreds, with no sign of slowing down. As his skilled Death's Hand levels up, Ryun notes how rare such monster density is. Even within Aedeon, The opportunity to endlessly fight is both overwhelming and valuable. He mutters about the Dark Zone, a place that resembles dozens of dungeons fused together, endlessly spawning monsters without rest or pattern. He identifies the phenomenon as regen, where monsters don't vanish upon death but return after a time. It is a regenerative loop ideal for grinding strength and mana. Unlike surface monsters that coexist with humans or form societies, the Dark Zone beasts are pure killing machines. Rian acknowledges them as the truest monsters, mindless, ruthless, and endless. Rian puts aside deeper thoughts and focuses on improvement. He channels his energy toward increasing mana and skill proficiency, the foundation of his necromancer abilities. With renewed focus, his mana stat grows, and he immediately applies the gained strength to fortify his spellcraft, targeting his core summoning skills. The rank of his Raise Dead skill increases. Sub-skills unlock, now allowing him to summon not just zombies, but skeletons and archers, expanding his army's formation and combat range. Rian confirms he has advanced as much as possible through standard leveling. With his current progress complete, he sets his sights on breaking free from the system's limits. Unexpectedly, his undead, Kornak, reacts to a fallen corpse. The creature senses something valuable, fixating on a goblin shaman's remains with interest and purpose. Rian watches as the system grants him the goblin shaman's finger bone. The result is small, but clear. His mana increases, and Kornak displays signs of unexpected evolution. Kornak begins to transform, and Rian realizes what's happening. He is witnessing the growth of a unique undead. Unlike regular summons, Kornak evolves beyond his original form. Rian reflects on this discovery. Rather than summoning masses of disposable undead, investing in a single powerful entity like Kornak proves far more effective and sustainable. Though this kind of evolution was considered impossible in Aedeon, Rian believes he has found a method. But even with his understanding, recreating Kornak remains uncertain and difficult. The Dark Zone lacks souls, so Rian cannot evolve monsters from there. However, he had prepared beforehand, collecting corpses from elsewhere, some of them highly valuable. Among these is Garuta Eani's corpse, which he plans to return to the guild. The rest, however, are his to use, hidden safely for future experiments. Using his subspace skill, Rian stores the bodies within his corpse vault. This dimensional space preserves them, giving him a secret reserve to further develop elite undead creations. Rian prepares to test a forbidden necromantic ritual, aiming to extract a soul from a preserved corpse using advanced mana circuits and control. If successful, the process would yield a unique undead infused with a soul, far more powerful than regular summons. He names this process Soul Extraction. The result could create a being strong enough to challenge the Floor Guardian. As Rian begins the ritual, the Floor Guardian senses the shift and charges into battle, roaring with fury. In the depths of the 12th floor, a notorious threat emerges in the weakest part of the Dark Zone. This area has long been whispered about among explorers for harboring a fearsome creature. A massive orc stands tall in the darkness, a unique entity that surpasses its kin in strength and presence. Within the kingdom of Sermon, this being holds a feared title passed among warriors and survivors alike. Known as the Human Slayer, the orc exudes overwhelming menace. As Rian approaches it cautiously, he realizes the tales did not exaggerate. The beast is labeled an Orc Giant Berserker. Level 23. The orc roars violently, unleashing a wave of fear that affects Rian's body. A system message confirms he has been exposed to orc fear, causing his stats to drop temporarily. Despite the effect, Rian successfully activates the Blue Earth Circulation method, stabilizing his mind and body. Rian knows the 12th floor's maze-like terrain will be difficult to navigate mid-combat. In such an environment, only one advantage matters above all: mobility. To counter the orc's strength, Rian summons a zombie wolf. The undead beast, fast and responsive, had once been the orc chieftain's mount before Rian reanimated it. With mana coursing through the wolf, it charges forward. Though temporary, its presence provides Rian the edge he needs to fight the human slayer. The orc appears confused by the swift assault, giving Rian a precious opening to strike decisively. Rian positions himself beside the zombie wolf, studying the orc giant berserker's movement. The creature's size and bloodlust explain why Sermon requires full squads of knights and mages to bring it down. As the monster roars in fury, Rian realizes the diversion tactics he set earlier only provoked it further. The orc is no longer just aggressive, it is enraged. Its excitement feeds its momentum. Each step it takes becomes harder to avoid. Rian knows that at this pace, the battlefield will soon offer no escape. Despite the rising danger, Rian uses the orc's blind rage to his advantage. As it commits to reckless attacks, minor openings begin to reveal themselves. Seizing one such moment, Ryun launches forward with enhanced agility. The surrounding mana concentrates at his feet, propelling him midair for a strike. His blade cuts into the orc's body, but the damage proves minimal. The shallow strike frustrates him, and he blames his still-developing assassin class for the lack of power. Ryun doesn't stop, despite the failed blow. He immediately follows with another skill, wound degradation, aiming to wear the orc down over time. The technique inflicts continuous bleeding as a curse-type effect, forcing the orc to stagger and howl in pain. Blood spills uncontrollably from multiple gashes. With cold resolve, Ryun stands firm. Aware of the orc's decreasing strength, he delivers his final warning. This battle ends now. The orc must stop resisting and die. As Ryun's curse skill weakens the orc, its body begins to glow with violent energy. It suddenly enters a berserk state, pushing its body beyond pain and gaining a tremendous boost in power. Ryun quickly realizes direct combat will no longer be effective. The orc, now unrestrained by pain, lashes out uncontrollably. Its frenzy is too overwhelming for frontal attacks to succeed. Responding calmly, Ryun activates a stealth-based skill, Fake Dead. His presence disappears from the orc's senses, allowing him to reposition and prepare for the next strategy. While hidden, Ryun begins channeling a wide-area necromantic ritual. Green energy radiates as undead magic swirls and spreads across the ground beneath him. Dozens of undead rise from the earth. Skeletons, ghouls, and lesser corpses respond to his mana. Summoned for a concentrated assault, the orc roars again, sensing danger. But now, Ryun stands surrounded by summoned forces, and with a calm voice, declares this battle a true raid. The solo fight transforms into group warfare. Ryun recalls his past failure, when he tried to create an elite undead from Aeni's fallen group. Though the attempt was unsuccessful, he gained important insights. Now he applies that knowledge. Rather than one powerful summon, he focuses on growth, invoking the skill Undead Enhancement to strengthen all his minions. He completes the ritual with soul sacrifice, offering stored energy to maximize undead output. As glowing chains of mana spread, a wave of undead surges forward, ready to overwhelm the human slayer. Ryun initiates soul sacrifice, offering a knight's soul. The ritual strengthens his undead forces, imbuing them with enhanced durability and skill drawn from the knight's spirit. A new message appears. The knight's abilities can now be used temporarily. Ryun's control over the battlefield sharpens as a result of this gain. He continues the ritual by offering a mage's soul. This further fortifies his elite summon, Kornak, granting the undead a portion of its former magical strength from when it was alive. Kornak, now towering above the other undead, receives Ryun's command. With the power of both knight and mage souls infused, the order to lead is given. Ryun calls for the final push, a signal for Kornak to execute the finishing assault. The orc, though still standing, breathes heavily, nearly overwhelmed by the rising horde. The undead army rushes forward as Kornak leads the charge. Enraged, the human slayer unleashes a desperate roar while swinging madly through the surrounding enemies. Undead swarm the orc from all directions. Despite its raw power, the numbers begin to overwhelm it. Dozens fall, but more press in with no hesitation. A violent explosion of green energy erupts. The orc's hidden ability triggers. It releases poisonous mana that detonates upon undead death. Ryun watches carefully from a distance as toxic clouds spread. Even in its final moments, the human slayer proves dangerous, using poison as a last defense. Ryun observes the orc's endurance with calculated calm, activating Commander's Eye. He scans the battlefield while noting the effectiveness of the undead enhanced by the knight's soul. Despite their resilience, he knows the undead remain expendable. Their shields begin to fail as the orc's poison and brute force push them past their limits. As the berserk state begins to falter due to accumulated poison damage, Ryun gives the signal to strike. Kornak is called to deliver the decisive blow. The human slayer roars, refusing to fall quietly. Surrounded, it lashes out with fading strength as the poison saps its vitality. Kornak rises above the battlefield. Now wielding power drawn from both knight and mage souls, a massive incantation is released. Flames consume the field, forming a burning vortex around the orc. The human slayer stands engulfed by fire. The overwhelming force of the spell leaves no room to retaliate. The raid nears its end. Ryun locks eyes with the human slayer, casting a complex spell with layered rings of golden energy swirling around him. While Ryun summons a massive fire-based spell, the human slayer responds with a counterstrike, preparing his own devastating force. Ryun, however, speaks with resolve. It is a final move meant to overwhelm. A fiery explosion bursts in the sky. Ryun's fireball descends like a meteor, crashing into the ground and engulfing the battlefield in flames. The smoke begins to clear. From within the blaze, the human slayer emerges, injured but still standing. His rage is evident as his body burns and trembles with fury. Rian watches, calm yet ready. The enemy's body, now scorched and torn, shows signs of strain. The attack was powerful, but not fatal. The human slayer still holds terrifying strength. As Rian steps forward, his enemy lets out a monstrous roar. Their surroundings blaze, but Rian stands tall. The confrontation isn't over. His opponent, despite the damage, remains a dangerous threat. Cornac, bathed in a purple aura, steps between Rian and the human slayer. His summoning has drawn powerful spirits, shocking even their foes. He praises the human slayer's strength. Rian commands a retreat. Cornac, following orders, begins a cancellation ritual. Magical symbols appear, glowing as summoned creatures fade. As the spell concludes, Cornac grins. The battle isn't finished, but their withdrawal is complete. Rian has seen enough. For now, the human slayer, though severely injured, roars with fury and desperation. His body glows faintly with embers as his strength nears collapse. Rian begins casting a complex spell. He declares victory and triggers his final technique, one reserved for executions, not battle. The spell activates as a spectral hand forms and pierces the human slayer. Hand of Death, a skill refined over time, delivers the fatal blow. The human slayer's body convulses as his strength is extinguished. Rian's magic evolves mid-battle. The Hand of Death ranks up, unlocking a hidden power, Life Drain, a necromancer-exclusive skill usable only by undead like Cornac. Dark energy spirals as Ryun siphons life force from the defeated human slayer. He absorbs 3 horsepower and 1 mana, reaching his current absorption limit. It marks a critical gain in combat utility. With the target's resistance broken, Ryun delivers a final draining strike. The human slayer's body stiffens and collapses under the pressure, confirming the kill. His eyes fade as the last of his energy is taken. Bonus experience is granted, and Ryun's level increases. Another message appears, offering a rare opportunity to extract the enemy's soul using his phantom ability. Rian, surprised he can extract a named boss's soul, considers the 57% success rate. Recognizing this as a unique chance, he prepares to cast the soul capture spell. With determination, Rian initiates the extraction, knowing failure isn't an option. His eyes glow as the spell activates. Rian casts soul extraction, channeling his energy through ancient runes and magic circles. With precise control, he targets the lingering spirit of the human slayer. A powerful force pulls the essence from the corpse. The human slayer's soul resists, writhing as it is pulled from the body. Despite its violent struggle, Rian's spell gains dominance. The soul is fully extracted. A system message confirms success. However, just as Rian begins to relax, something unexpected occurs. The ground trembles. Rian realizes something is wrong. Though he succeeded in absorbing the soul, the human slayer's body remains intact. Normally, a boss corpse would vanish after death and respawn for future challengers. He stares at the unmoving body. Its failure to disappear breaks the rules of the Dark Zone. Rian deduces that if it stays like this, the Dark Zone's stability might be compromised. With concern growing, he realizes this anomaly could alert others. If the Sermon Knights patrolling the Dark Zone see the corpse, they'll know a high-level intruder was here and act on it immediately. The sound of armored boots echoes in the corridor. A patrol unit led by a knight commander rushes forward, guided by traces of the battle. The knights spot the residual energy in the air. Their leader signals to move in closer, eyes narrowed as she senses something unusual ahead. She halts suddenly. Before her lies the scorched battleground and the unmoving body of the human slayer. Her eyes widen as she realizes what it means. The knights examine the aftermath. Cracks in the ground and lingering magical residue confirm a fierce battle took place. Their leader affirms the human slayer's death. From the signs, they deduce that the enemy was overwhelmed by an organized force. At least 30 monsters had joined the fight, supported by coordinated elites and mages. Lone Knight questions its possibility. The commander agrees. It's strange. No known group in the Dark Zone possesses the strength or skill to pull off a victory like this. The tactical precision stands out. Their commander draws a conclusion. The killer was human. The precise and systematic attack patterns weren't random. They were deliberate and methodical, unlike what monsters would do instinctively. The evidence supports this theory. The human slayer has undoubtedly fallen. But with the 12th layer guardian gone, the layer's monsters may soon attempt to break free and overrun the upper zones. Realizing the crisis, the commander declares that all forces must mobilize to stop a layer escape. Meanwhile, a knight ponders aloud who could have done it, especially given how short-staffed the Sermon forces already are. Another night, Jang seems troubled. When questioned, he denies anything is wrong, brushing off concern about his injured arm and urging a swift return. But internally, Jang knows the truth. This battlefield wasn't just a site of conflict. It was a message left behind intentionally. Clenching his fist, he silently vows to fulfill the mission entrusted to him, recognizing that Ryun has made his move. Ryun approaches a glowing portal deep within a cave. As he steps closer, he identifies it as the exit to the current floor. With the human slayer defeated, it's time to proceed to the next stage. Crossing through, Ryun emerges in the 11th layer. Unlike the scorched battlegrounds of the previous level, this one reveals lush wetlands with lakes and swamps. He scouts a safe, isolated spot near the water's edge. It's quiet with no immediate threats, and he decides it's the right place to continue managing the aftermath of the last battle. Activating the necromancer's skill Morgue, Ryun materializes the corpse of the human slayer. The fact that the body remained after death is unusual. Normally, such entities vanish upon defeat. Ryun notes this exception and prepares for a new analysis. As he stabilizes the corpse's presence, a quest window appears. It updates with new objectives. With the human slayer's defeat, his quests under all three paths have progressed, and a new notification warns that more have been added. A main quest activates, Veda's Legacy. Ryun recognizes this as something significant, linked to a deeper part of his powers. The system confirms the quest's nature is tied to the soul of the human slayer. Ryun reviews the merge of his necromancer path and the new challenge it brings. Shocked by the scale, he tries to catch his breath. The prompt confirms it, main quest, Veda's Legacy has begun. Ryun finds himself surrounded by a glowing system interface, his path unexpectedly converging with another. A notification reveals that the fates of two roles, the necromancer and the girl, have merged into a single quest. As Ryun floats mid-air in confusion, multiple windows appear signifying a shift in the system. Despite his confusion, the process proceeds without his consent, and he is caught in the transition of quest reassignment. A new notification announces the main quest, labeled Veda's Legacy. The system registers Veda's influence and declares the start of a new storyline that Ryun hadn't anticipated. The system then creates a subquest aimed at revenge, rebuild the Sermon family. This objective ties Ryun's personal goal to the system's progression. Next, the system assigns the path of the assassin, tasking him with obtaining a qualification from Martin. This adds a secondary mission that relies on Ryun's combat skills and infiltration. Ryun is struck by how the system, which once felt broken in the Drea continent, now functions fully. A new world quest emerges. Raise the human slayer as an undead under Veda's directive. Ryun suspects a deeper link between Veda and the human slayer. The sudden activation of a world quest raises doubts about coincidence and purpose. Memories of his only previous world quest, slaying a god, resurface. Driven by uncertainty, he resolves to fulfill this quest to uncover answers. Initiating a necromantic spell, Ryun casts Raise Dead, beginning the process of reviving the fallen warrior, entangling their fates under Veda's Legacy. As the resurrection ritual proceeds, Ryun is caught off guard by an unexpected surge in energy. He watches in alarm as the undead begins to pulse violently with chaotic magic. The summoned power intensifies beyond control. Runes ignite around the human slayer's body, forming dark magical circles as the undead form grows more defined. A sudden backlash erupts, knocking Ryun back. The energy tether strains him as a massive force drains his mana uncontrollably, leaving him struggling to endure the spell. A vortex of dark magic forms at the ritual site, twisting the ground as the revived being's presence becomes undeniable. The human slayer fully materializes into a towering skeletal figure clad in armor, radiating with necrotic might and purple flame. Ryun braces himself as the berserker launches toward him with crushing power, its strength fueled by the energy Ryun just sacrificed. Realizing the creature's rank is lower than expected, Ryun questions the outcome. He had anticipated a being on par with a powerful warrior, not just a skeletal berserker. The system announces the next objective. The human slayer is not yet complete and requires a hero's soul for full activation. Ryun is shocked by the inefficiency of the summoning. Despite pouring immense mana into the ritual, the result is only a partial success, requiring further sacrifice. In a quiet forest clearing, the calm is suddenly broken by a monstrous scream. A pack of dark beasts charges through the trees, drawn by the surge of necrotic energy. The newly summoned berserker intercepts them mid-rush. Despite being incomplete, it meets the monsters with raw strength and overwhelming physical force. With swift, brutal movements, the berserker cleaves through multiple enemies. Ryun observes as it effortlessly destroys the lesser creatures, proving its usefulness even in an unfinished state. Rian evaluates the Berserker's limitations. While its power is impressive, the excessive mana consumption quickly becomes its biggest flaw. As a special type undead, the Berserker does not vanish when idle and can be stored, but maintaining it prevents summoning any other undead. Rian finds a tactical solution. He decides to use Karank, the mage, for ranged attacks, while assigning the Berserker to frontline combat, forming a balanced two-unit formation. Utilizing both efficiently reminds Rian of dungeon clearing strategies from Adian. As battles continue, his levels and mana steadily increase. Though hunting brings steady progress, he regains focus on his original goal, mastering the blue earth tempering method. Rian initiates the technique, green energy begins to circulate through his body, spreading in a wide pattern as the training field activates, signaling a transition from battle to self-strengthening. Rian explores a forested area believed to be the last known location of his brothers. However, after extensive searching, he finds no traces of them or their presence. According to intel from the Asan family, this dark zone was where the brothers were last reported. Rian recalls their faces, questioning the validity of the information. He repeatedly activates the blue earth tempering method to detect familiar resonance, but no signal reaches him. Despite his efforts, the technique yields no confirmation. Rian considers the Asan report, which mentions a deeper floor, the 9th. He wonders if the brothers might be beyond his current detection range. Worried about his readiness, Rian questions whether his strength is enough to reach the deeper levels, particularly past the 10th floor. Suddenly, his technique resonates. He reacts instantly. Someone nearby has also learned the Sermon family's unique method, triggering the detection system. Rian picks up movement. Two people nearby. One's movement suggests they are untrained, while the other seems experienced and equipped. He notes a key feature. One of them has only one arm. This person might be significant, perhaps even connected to the Sermon family. Although curious, Rian decides not to reveal himself yet to maintain caution. He chooses to keep his identity hidden for the time being. Rian is suddenly embraced by a red-haired woman who warmly greets him. Though surprised, he quickly recognizes her as Sina, a familiar and trusted figure from his past. His shock grows as a second familiar face appears, Chief Steward Triuno. Alongside him is Jang. They recognize Rian through the aura of the tempering method he used. The group exchanges formal greetings. Though time has passed, they all acknowledge Rian's growth and hidden strength. The elder notes that without the resonance, Rian's identity might have remained unknown. They explain that they followed traces of Rian's magic and the activation of the tempering method, which had been set as a signal to confirm his presence in case of an anomaly. Jang, assigned to monitor the dark zone, fulfilled his duty by responding the moment the signal appeared. The group reflects on the trust Rian had placed in them. Before further conversation, a rustle in the bushes draws attention. Rian looks forward cautiously. A powerful presence has arrived, and danger lurks ahead once again. As Rian moved through the cold mist, shadowy figures emerged before him. Beings that once haunted his nightmares. The figure approached gently. Rian stood frozen, shocked at the presence of his mother. Selene, her voice was calm and her expression showed genuine relief. He addressed her quietly. She had vanished from his life long ago, always cloaked in silence and mystery. Rian recalled the fragments of her presence, never whole, always fading, always absent. He remembered the bitterness. Rian had rarely seen Selene's face while growing up. Her absence left wounds deeper than any blade, filling his heart with confusion and resentment. Selene, acknowledging his identity and bloodline, her voice lacked hesitation. For the first time, Rian felt her recognize him not as a burden, but as her son. With time, he understood. She had fought in silence, enduring every hardship alone. She had feared losing him, the last of her children. A magical barrier shimmered into place, shielding them from outside threats. The group, now gathered, prepared to speak freely. Danger remained close, but the moment offered clarity. Jang stepped forward with a wounded arm. He explained the injury came from his own inexperience. Though hurt, he stood with pride, trusted with guarding someone important. He looked at the steward beside him. Despite pain, he fulfilled his duty. Rian watched silently, realizing the weight of loyalty carried by those who chose to protect instead of run. Steward explained how he survived. With Sina's help, he built a secret base within the dark zone, hidden from the Patton family's surveillance. It became their safe ground for planning. Within this shelter, they worked in secret. Jang reflected on his failures, blaming himself for past mistakes. Sina, however, praised his dedication. Selene credited him for uniting them through trust and unwavering resolve. Despite his youth, Rian had become a center of loyalty. Her words made him flush with silent pride. Selene, now fully aware of the events unfolding, questioned, Ryan directly. She asked if he had orchestrated the recent chaos, events that shook the Patton family and changed the balance of power. She recalled the calculated downfall of Patton's forces. The bloodshed was precise. Ryan had struck decisively and handed the enemy leader, Sons Patton, over to Sena as part of a greater scheme. Ryan confirmed her suspicions. His expression was calm and determined. He admitted to planning everything. The others exchanged glances. Tension filled the room. Celine's gaze lingered on Ryan, knowing full well the weight of such choices. This wasn't the boy she once knew. He had changed. Evidence taken from Sons Patton had become leverage. With it, they forced the Patton family into mediation. In return, they demanded and received heavy compensation for the crimes committed. The Pattons, though enraged, had no choice. After their child was kidnapped, they swallowed their anger to save face. Ryan's strategy had turned a blood feud into a forced truce. Though Celine had seen the results of his efforts, her heart questioned if this changed boy was truly her son. Ryan remained quiet at first, meeting her gaze directly. He was no longer the child she remembered, but the identity he claimed now held strength. He declared himself, Ryan's sermon, heir of the fallen house. Celine, though silent, acknowledged his words. Her expression shifted from doubt to recognition. She saw not the boy who was once helpless, but a figure reshaped by loss, pain, and will. Ryan admitted that he had changed. The trials he endured had shaped a new version of himself. Yet, he reminded her that regardless of how much he evolved, he was still her son by birth. Moved, Celine expressed gratitude. But then, her tone turned serious. She sensed something dark. A chilling aura surrounded him, one no ordinary warrior carried. Ryan watched as his mother staggered. The darkness he had tried to suppress was no longer hidden. Her sharp senses as a holy knight detected it clearly. The aura of death pulsed around Ryan. It was undeniable. She had felt it before, the mark of a necromancer. He realized there was no hiding it. His path had diverged into roles that conflicted: swordmaster, paladin, and now necromancer. Each left a trace on his soul. He knew lies would fail. Before someone like Celine, once a holy knight, only truth would hold meaning. Ryan braced himself, understanding he could not escape her judgment now. Ryan recalled the moment of his capture by Sons Patton. It was not a defeat, but a calculated step. The abduction served as the signal that triggered his larger plan. He reminded Celine that the strategy did not rely on him alone. Trund, Sina, and Jangdro were all necessary parts of its execution. Ryan emphasized the need for understanding. If they acted without knowing the reasons behind his transformation, they might jeopardize everything. He wanted them to follow his lead, not out of blind loyalty, but awareness. He chose to explain. Ryan offered to reveal the truth of his actions, starting from a vision he once had, a dream that seemed prophetic. Celine was surprised but listened. Ryan called it a revelation. That vision was not just imagination. It showed the destruction of the Sermon family down to its ashes. The memory of the dream caused unease. Sina and Celine instinctively reacted, disturbed by its implication. The weight of that future hovered over them like a shadow. Ryan described the chaos, the Patton family's assault, flames devouring their homeland, noble allies abandoning them without hesitation, and helpless citizens slaughtered in the streets. Colin and many others were among the dead. Ryan's voice was steady. Stewart acknowledged that had events continued unchecked, this dark fate could have become reality. Ryan explained that he, his mother, and younger sister Maria had been captured. That moment was more than trauma. It was the foundation upon which his resolve was born. Ryan described how Sena and Alfonso had fought relentlessly to save them, even surpassing their limits. Despite their efforts, they were ultimately overwhelmed by the enemy. In the chaos, Alfonso was injured and fell. Sena was brutally slain. Jangdro was captured and tortured by the Patton family before finally being killed. Ryan, who had also died, awakened with clarity. He came to understand his purpose and strength. Standing before Celine, he concluded his story with conviction. That was all. Ryan stood in silence as a surge of realization consumed him. No longer confused by fear or doubt, he now understood who he truly was and what path he needed to follow. He reflected on how his visions felt less like a naive dream and more like fragmented records. Echoes from someone who had witnessed the fall of the Sermon family firsthand, rather than imagination. It was a transmission, memories of loss and truth. The intensity of those experiences erased any fear. All that remained was awareness of his potential and what he must become. Celine listened quietly as Ryan confirmed the truth of his dream. That vision had triggered the chain of events now unraveling before them. With calm certainty, Ryan declared his identity. He wasn't merely a survivor of the Sermon line. He was its heir. The presence of a mysterious figure affirmed his declaration. Ryun, no longer a lost child, had embraced his name and legacy. He was a sermon steward, struggled to believe the tale. Yet knowing what Ryun had accomplished, even he couldn't dismiss it as delusion. Sena recognized the signs. Whether a divine prophecy or a bloodline gift, Ryun's dream had been guiding him with purpose. Selin stood by her son, acknowledging that his actions had power behind them. Only with such strength could Ryun fight within the dark zone and challenge fate itself. Selin, calm and observant, asked Ryun about his intentions going forward. He looked hesitant, unsure if she truly believed him. But Selin firmly declared that he was no longer a child. His decisions were those of someone prepared to carry the weight of their family's future. She assured him that everyone present would stand behind him. Her unwavering support gave Ryun clarity. He accepted the path before him without hesitation. Ryun's gaze hardened. He spoke with resolve, rejecting the idea of clinging to pride rooted in a name that had already fallen. He demanded that the name of the Sermon family, once held in honor, be relinquished. This act would erase their noble status completely. His words sent a wave of shock through those around him. Selin, Sina, and Steward all reacted with disbelief, struggling to accept what they had heard. Steward urgently warned Ryun that giving up the name would dissolve their position and legacy entirely. Still, Ryun acknowledged the consequences calmly. He explained that regaining that title was impossible for the current Sermon family. Prestige without power was meaningless. As Selin and Sena listened, Ryun continued. True nobility stood above kingdoms, held authority across realms, and decided the fate of worlds in crisis. Without real power, their name meant nothing. Ryun warned that if the Sermon family persisted under its old name, the Patton family would declare war. He knew Pattons sought dominance by exploiting their current weakness. Patton's ambitions were clear. They saw Sermon's decline as an opportunity to rise. Ryun predicted they would take the risk to eliminate a fallen rival completely. Steward, worried, questioned their chances in such a conflict. Without the authority of a prestigious name, the Sermon family lacked the strength to fight. Ryun explained that under their current title, their influence was limited. They couldn't legally take action, even when threatened. Power came not from name, but from recognition and backing. He urged them to discard the prestigious title and re-enter society under a new structure. They needed to rebuild as a force tied to law and order. Selin hesitated at first, questioning Ryun's seriousness, but his determination was unwavering. This wasn't surrender, it was strategy, a calculated retreat to deceive the enemy. Ryun pleaded with his mother to consider the plan quickly. He was focused, knowing there was little time before enemies made their move. Selin paused and then revealed one condition. Before anything else, he needed to retrieve someone important. Ryun was stunned as she named his next task. He must bring back Maria, his younger sister, and do so without delay. A new mission had begun. Steward and Sina expressed doubt, questioning whether retrieving Maria was possible given the family's unstable situation. Ryun answered with clarity. This mission was not for the family's pride, but for Maria's own sake. He believed that only by prioritizing Maria's true desires could they act in her interest. It wasn't just a rescue, it was giving her a voice and a choice. Selin, though silent, understood his meaning. She accepted his request, giving her approval to proceed. The others watched as she addressed him formally, recognizing his will. Selin declared her decision. The Sermon family would abandon its title, and Maria would be brought home. It was a step she admitted should have been taken earlier. Ryun confirmed her choice was the correct one. He believed this path would prevent unnecessary losses and give them a chance to rebuild with purpose. However, Selin unexpectedly announced her unworthiness to continue leading the family. She removed her sword and stepped down, leaving Ryun stunned. Before Ryun could respond, Selin drew her sword and called his name. As mother, knight, and family head, she told him he now had to carry the responsibility. To prove himself, he would face her strength. She would test his readiness not with words, but in battle. Her blade symbolized the weight of leadership. Selin gave him one task: to endure a single strike from her. If he could withstand it, he would be worthy to lead Sermon into the future. Sena and Steward watched in alarm as Ryun prepared to face Selin's blade, a strike from a holy knight and swordmaster. Ryun remained composed. He recognized this was more than a test. His mother, despite her strength, was ready to entrust him with the role of family head. He accepted that responsibility. With his father and brothers gone, he alone remained to carry the weight of Sermon's future. Selin understood this truth as well. Though not formal, she was ready to acknowledge Ryun's leadership if he endured her challenge. With unwavering resolve, she raised her sword. If Ryun withstood the strike, she would follow his lead, regardless of the consequences. At that moment, a system alert appeared. A quest had been triggered. The title of the quest, Selin's Recognition, confirmed the stakes. Ryun stands before his mother, who raises her sword with resolute eyes. She intends to face the consequences herself, but Ryun steps forward to stop her. Shrouded in a dark cloak, Ryun suppresses emotion as he channels energy into his palm. A brilliant green glow swirls around his hand, signifying his intent to engage seriously. Lifting his swords, Ryun transforms his determination into action. As energy ignites around him, he launches into motion. He has accepted the challenge and pushes forward. Selin's form is enveloped by a majestic, glowing aura, symbolizing the title she bears, the Silver Dragon. She is feared and respected as one of the most powerful warriors. Ryun analyzes her capabilities. Selin is both a sword master and a paladin, but she cannot use both powers at once. This limitation provides him a sliver of opportunity. He deduces her test. If she attacks with the swordmaster's force, she'll use mana. If as a paladin, it will be divine energy. He must adapt based on her chosen form, fully aware of her duality. Ryun sharpens his focus. He knows that identifying the energy source behind her attacks will be key to countering them successfully. Selin chooses divine power, cloaking herself in radiant energy. Ryun locks eyes on her as she moves. She strikes with staggering speed, overwhelming the field in light. Though his instincts fire, the sheer velocity catches him off guard. His eyes widen, he perceives the attack, but only just. The speed is unlike anything he has ever faced. Ryun launches forward, closing the gap towards Selin in an instant. His blade moves with deadly intent, but Selin counters with overwhelming divine force. The golden energy emanating from Selin expands and explodes outward, shaking the ground beneath them. Her attack slices through the battlefield. Stunned, Selin lowers her blade. Though Ryun was clearly struck, she realizes something is off. Her expression shifts to confusion as she questions what just happened, unable to grasp how he survived such a blow. Ryun recalls how he identified Selin's energy as mana, not divine power. Using that clue, he activated spirit form, a ghost skill he mastered during his years in Aedeon. As his body faded into an intangible state, the mana-based attack passed through harmlessly. His ghost technique allowed him to temporarily abandon his physical form and evade damage completely. Blood spills as he fails to fully maintain the form. Though he endured the hit, the technique is not yet stable in this life. Selin rushes toward him, calling his name in shock and concern. Others arrive as Ryun lies wounded. He reassures them that he is fine. In truth, the pain is real, but the injury means something deeper to him than physical harm. He decides to carry the wound not as regret, but as a mark, a symbol of his mother's strength, sacrifice, and love, a reminder of his identity and the bond they share. As their eyes meet again, Selin softly calls his name. Ryun, calm and steady, returns her gaze. The test complete, their hearts silently reunited. After the clash, Selin gently expresses gratitude toward Ryun, acknowledging his strength and trust. As she embraces him, a warm light signals a system notification. He has earned her full recognition. Ryun gains a small amount of experience points along with Selin's recognition. His tactical use of ghost abilities is also acknowledged. Further messages confirm his success in evading Selin's sword through the spirit form skill. The rank of the ghost ability increases, and his class level as a phantom rises. As light and leaves swirl in the clearing, Ryun reflects on unfinished duties. Though he has gained strength and trust, there are still personal burdens he must handle alone. Selin hands him a sealed letter, its contents detailing the timeline to relinquish the family's prestigious status and the responsibilities that follow. It marks the next step in Ryun's journey. Selin wishes she could accompany him, but she understands he must face what lies ahead on his own. Sina expresses concern, knowing Colin and Alejandro remain unaware of the full truth. Sina advises caution, suggesting it's best not to inform Alejandro yet due to his expressive nature. Stuart and Jang quietly agree, their expressions showing a mix of worry and respect. Ryun decides to meet Colin himself. He is certain that even if the truth surfaces later, Alejandro won't hold resentment. He's not that kind of person. As the group parts ways, Selin remains behind with Sena, Jang, and Stuart. Ryun walks alone toward the mountains, the road ahead long but his resolve unwavering. Ryun arrives at the Daron Kingdom, a sprawling city filled with stone towers and bustling streets. His destination lies within the city's information network. He enters the Martin Information Branch, a discreet building housing operatives of the assassin network inside. A clerk greets him formally, recognizing him as a fifth-rank assassin and handing him a sealed message. Ryun accepts the letter with a serious expression. Its seal bears the insignia of the Painton branch. As he breaks it open, anticipation builds. Within a tavern, assassins and mercenaries murmur rumors. Rian reads the letter's contents carefully, and nearby, a red-haired agent confirms his guess. It's the 4th rank promotion test. The mission is now official. The system recognizes the quest, prompting a bright notification that a new challenge has been triggered. His rank-up test has begun. The task is clear: eliminate a powerful mage named Goma in the Khalid region. Rian recalls hearing about him, a known threat with ties to dark sorcery, fitting for a test of lethal capability. Reports indicate that Goma suddenly emerged in Khalid, conjuring a dungeon filled with dark energy. Soon after, villagers began to vanish without trace. Even those sent to investigate, adventurers and mercenaries met grim fates with no support from local lords. The villagers turned to Martin for aid, without hesitation. Rian accepts the directive. 2 objectives await him: destroy the dungeon and assassinate Goma. Rian arrives in the village of Khalid, now cloaked in an eerie silence. The streets are empty, windows shuttered, and dust carried by wind swirls between abandoned homes. A few wary villagers peek through windows, but no one steps out. As Rian moves deeper into the village, he is approached by an elderly man who eyes him cautiously. He questions Rian's presence and warns him to leave immediately. The elder, noting Rian's youthful appearance, insists he depart. Whatever brought him here, the risk isn't worth it. The atmosphere is tense, and fear lingers in every word. Rian responds with confusion. Surprised by the blunt dismissal, he demands to know what is happening in the village. The elder reveals a grim truth. A fog of death hangs over Khalid. For reasons unknown, males, both adults and children, are vanishing one by one. Rian's expression tightens. The mystery deepens as he whispers the chilling revelation to himself. Only males? Rian listens as a hooded woman points toward a distant mountainside. She explains that a mage has taken residence there and is using dark magic to devour people for mana. The woman warns Rian that the village is no longer safe. If he wants to survive, he must leave immediately. Suddenly, an elderly woman bursts out from a nearby house, screaming in distress. Her daughter tries to restrain her. Rian watches silently as the woman struggles and cries out, drawing attention to something dark and troubling happening in the village. A younger woman greets Rian and asks if he is an outsider. Her demeanor is cheerful, and she points him toward a nearby inn, noting that the food is decent and the place is good for staying. Despite the welcome, Rian senses something off. The old woman from earlier shouts again, this time warning him to leave immediately. She insists the mage will consume him if he stays. The daughter continues trying to silence her mother. Rian realizes the conflicting attitudes are intentional. The younger one acts friendly, but something in her behavior feels forced, as if she doesn't want him to leave. The younger woman leaps toward the building and slams the door shut behind her. Rian, still outside, remains cautious but alert. A system-like warning appears. Rumors suggest the village lures outsiders for sacrifice. They offer mercenaries or adventurers to the mages in place of their own. Rian reads the warning carefully. Holding a piece of paper, he confirms the disturbing truth. The villagers are trading lives to survive. Rian decides to head to the inn for now. Though aware of the threat posed by the mage Goma, he holds back, suspecting there is more to uncover than what's been told. Standing outside the inn, Rian recalls one of his core rules in assassination. Acting on incomplete information is reckless. He knows patience will give him the upper hand. He keeps his hood low and remains cautious. Somewhere nearby, under the moonlight, shadowy figures observe from rooftops. Individuals he's determined to meet. Night falls over the village. Inside the inn, Rian sits quietly. A cheerful innkeeper starts a casual conversation, unaware of Rian's true identity or purpose. When Rian mentions the old woman from before, the innkeeper identifies her as Granny Sarman, a widow who lost both sons under mysterious circumstances. Rian learns that the village's male population has been steadily vanishing, confirming earlier warnings. The tone shifts. The mystery is not rumor, it's a confirmed pattern. The innkeeper adds that even travelers and mercenaries who stayed in the village have disappeared. She advises Rian to be cautious, her expression briefly turning serious, curious. Rian asks if the local lord took action. The woman explains the lord did send soldiers, but they returned with no results, deepening the suspicion. She adds that the villagers eventually took matters into their own hands, gathering resources to hire an outsider, a fixer, to investigate and end the crisis. Rian quietly repeats the word, intrigued by this development. The innkeeper reveals the hired fixer is from Martin, an elite assassin guild linked to the Asan family, known for their precision and success rate. Their involvement raises the village's hope. Rian confirms internally that it wasn't the local lord but the villagers who took the initiative. That realization shifts his understanding of the village's desperation and independence. though it cost them heavily. The villagers had no choice. The innkeeper quietly advises Ryun to avoid staying long outside. Unknown figures approach under the night sky. As Ryun reacts to approaching footsteps, a group of 5 enters the inn. He watches closely without revealing his presence. The group's entrance is confident. Ryun observes their varied gear and the quiet power they carry. The innkeeper notices them too, whispering the word mercenaries. Among the group, Ryun spots a mage, confirming this is a well-rounded party. He quietly assesses them as professionals, likely connected to the fixer assignment. The leader demands food, speaking with authority. His tone suggests annoyance about being sent to a remote village, revealing they came reluctantly. One of the group, Bayek, reminds the others. They're here to meet the client. Ryun listens silently, confirming they're indeed on an official mission. Ryun's attention locks on a silver badge displayed on the mercenary's chest. That rank signifies high skill, confirming they're not amateurs. Ryun notes their capability and begins planning accordingly. A sudden sound breaks the silence. One of the cloaked female mercenaries steps inside calmly, her presence immediately drawing attention from Ryun and the others already seated. The mercenary leader questions her, asking if she's the client. She answers flatly, no, she's not the one who summoned them. She walks past them, without hesitation, and approaches Ryun directly. Her focus is clear. The mercenaries silently observe her movements as she reaches the cloaked youth's table. She casually asks to sit with him. Ryun doesn't respond immediately. Watching her with cautious eyes, her demeanor is confident and informal. Without waiting for an answer, she takes the seat. Ryun remains still but clearly displeased. He recognizes her audacity and doesn't welcome her intrusion. She introduces herself as Ravina. Ryun says nothing, but his irritation shows. Her casual attitude and use of his name in public seem reckless to him. Ravina calls him Leon, revealing she knows his alias. Ryun is taken aback, especially by her relaxed tone and familiarity. A flashback confirms she is part of the support team for the mission. Since the target is likely hiding in a dungeon, Ravina was sent as a guide named Sapphire. Ryun internally fumes. He expected an assassin, not a guide. He's even more annoyed she used his name openly. Meanwhile, Ravina proudly claiming it's an honor to work with him. Ravina expresses excitement at meeting the renowned talent from Martin. Her loud voice draws attention, causing Ryun to silence her immediately. Aware of watching eyes, embarrassed, Ravina mumbles an apology, admitting it's her first time seeing a real Assassin Guild member up close. Ryun leans in closer, eyes cold, and demands silence once more. At a nearby table, the mercenaries continue their discussion, seemingly unaware of the pair's exchange. Ryun remains alert, listening closely while keeping his presence discreet. The red-haired mercenary complains about the delay. The group begins to grow impatient, questioning why the client hasn't shown up yet. Their leader reassures them the client will arrive soon. He urges them to be patient, hinting at the importance of the mission ahead. The blue-haired man reveals they gave up a troll hunt to come here. It's their first dungeon raid, and they hope the mission will raise their fame and lead to a promotion. They appear motivated but inexperienced. Ryun notes that the group doesn't seem to notice their presence. He observes quietly, piecing together the mercenaries' situation and lack of awareness. He mutters that they're rookies. Ravina agrees, watching the group with a knowing expression, suggesting their inexperience is obvious to her as well. She mentions the dungeon's terrifying nature, implying the mercenaries are walking into danger they don't yet understand. A slight smirk forms on her lips as if expecting their failure. Under the vast night sky, a luminous full moon shone brightly over a quiet forest village. Stars flickered as the wind rustled a few scattered leaves. Nestled among trees, a wooden inn stood warmly lit. A cloaked figure approached the entrance in silence, their posture calm but the air tense with expectation. Inside, a sharp-eyed girl observed a nearby group of adventurers. She recognized their naivety at once, noting how unprepared they were for the dungeon ahead. Her attention shifted to their formation. They leaned heavily on a mage draped in red, a clear sign they lacked balance and overestimated magic alone. Scoffing quietly, the girl dismissed them as typical adventurers too reliant on flashy power, ignoring the essentials, true professionals. She believed trained for survival, not spectacle. Suddenly, the tavern's wooden door creaked open. A hooded elder woman stepped inside, her cane tapping softly. The elderly woman introduced herself as Sarman, the client seeking the Steel Shield Mercenary Company. Her voice was calm but firm. She revealed her identity, the same woman who lived at the village outskirts with trembling hands. She poured a mountain of coins before the mercenaries, everything she owned. This mission was personal. Her request was simple yet heavy: defeat the mage residing on the distant mountain and recover her son's body. She wanted to give him a proper burial under the sun. The team stared in silence at the glittering coins. Though their faces betrayed hesitation, the lure of gold began to dull their doubts. One mercenary nodded solemnly in agreement. He declared that Steel Shield does not accept failure. The request would be completed without error. But despite his words, doubt crept in about the low reward. Whispers of protest rose. One member murmured that the pay felt too small for such a deadly task. Another outright called it a ripoff, clearly unimpressed by sentiment alone. Realizing the hesitation, Sarman offered something more. From beneath her cloak, she presented a gold ring and heirloom she once meant for her daughter-in-law. She pleaded one final time, stating that the ring would be theirs if they brought her son's body back. The ring shimmered, revealing a hidden magic within it. A system message appeared before one of the members. The quest log updated Veda's legacy. Along with it came a glowing map marking the location of the hero's soul. As the magical quest log updated, one of the mercenaries froze mid-reaction. Suspicion stirred among the group as the quietest member stared intensely at the glowing notification with widened eyes. Without speaking, the man's gaze darkened. His expression grew focused, brows furrowing. Whatever he saw had shifted something in him instantly. Snatching the heirloom ring, the group's leader held it high, though one companion scoffed at the idea of accepting another cheap ring. The leader declared their discussion over the payment was sufficient. The leader stood and issued commands decisively. As he moved toward the exit, the team scrambled to follow, surprised by his sudden urgency and resolve, declaring that the Steel Shield mercenary company was mobilizing. He led the group out behind him. The others had no choice but to follow despite confusion. Amazed by his good fortune, the leader smirked while inspecting the ring. Finding such a powerful item in an isolated village was beyond expectation. A true stroke of luck. Far from the inn, moonlight bathed the mountain range as cold winds stirred the trees. The mercenaries pressed forward, having now reached the dungeon's perimeter. At the edge of the magical circle, one of the team asked for an appraisal. Glowing glyphs surrounded the ring as the mage began an inspection. After a pause, she confirmed the ring held magic, but she couldn't yet determine its purpose. Its enchantments were far beyond her identification skill. With curiosity rising, she concluded that an item of this level was worth further exploration. It might carry a deeper function or hidden power. The others saw it as confirmation. For such a minor target, the reward already surpassed expectations. Eliminating a countryside mage seemed far too easy. Their leader looked back toward the dungeon entrance under the moonlight. He grinned at the fortune ahead, unaware of the deeper danger awaiting them. Still driven by greed, the red-haired mage speculated aloud. A dungeon might mean more treasures, hidden relics, magical weapons, or ancient artifacts. Their captain remained confident. Even a low-tier mage wouldn't build a dungeon without possessing something of worth. He urged the others to press on quickly. From behind a tree, a cloaked figure watched in silence. Their presence went unnoticed by the passing group, but their calm smile hinted at knowledge of what truly lay ahead. While moving through the woods, the cloaked girl criticized the mercenaries' careless approach. Charging into unknown territory without collecting proper intelligence made them easy targets for dungeon traps. She turned to her companion, remarking that the mercenaries' expressions revealed their inexperience. They lacked fundamental training, and even their body language betrayed overconfidence. Her tone shifted as she included the boy walking beside her in her assessment. She viewed him more as an observer than a direct contributor, suspecting he was not here just to assist. The boy warned her not to become overly confident either. He reminded her that the strange ring and magic the mercenaries received weren't ordinary, suggesting a deeper threat. She pieced together the truth he hadn't joined them casually. His pursuit of the group had a purpose, sparked by the unusual magical energy involved in their quest. A realization crossed her mind. He wasn't merely someone offering support. His motivation and knowledge marked him as someone far beyond the role he appeared to play. Smirking, the girl teased a dark solution: eliminate the mercenaries and take the rewards for themselves. The suggestion was half in jest but hinted at her calculating nature. The boy reacted with unease. Although her words were bold, he rejected the idea immediately. He drew a clear line between assassins and criminals. He reminded her that blindly stealing what others possessed crossed into banditry. Killing for gain alone lacked the code he followed in his silent trade. As wind swept over the mountains, the two figures continued moving through the moonlit forest, following the mercenaries' trail. They watched as the Steel Shield Company approached a glowing stone arch, the dungeon's entrance pulsing with energy. Arcane symbols flared as it activated. The girl stopped beside the boy, gazing ahead without emotion. She confirmed what lay before them: a dungeon, and possibly the turning point of their pursuit. Under the bright full moon, a rocky hill stands silent while leaves rustle in the night wind. Hidden within the shadows of the trees, A hooded blue-haired youth narrows his eyes in irritation as the pink-haired girl beside him continues speaking. Stepping closer from behind, the pink-haired girl raises a finger playfully, whispering near his ear. The hooded youth lifts his hand and examines a ring set with a glowing emblem, recalling that it suppresses sound and presence. Standing behind him, the girl smiles with confidence, reminding him of his rising reputation within the guild. Clasping her hands together, she beams with excitement at the thought of his rapid promotion. Meanwhile, he remains reserved, clearly more focused on strategy than praise. A grim memory flashes in his mind, showing a furious accusation tied to a past assassination. Inside a guild hall, two red-haired members stand before a towering pile of gold coins placed on a table. Back beneath the night sky, the girl faces him closely and questions the scale of the payment. He meets her gaze calmly, aware that the amount could shift guild politics. A shining golden number appears in his imagination, symbolizing 100 gold offered for the mission. Shock briefly stiffens his posture at the sheer value. As she speculates about how the payment was divided, he mentally calculates the guild's share after fees. Turning slightly away, he begins to reconsider the situation, sensing manipulation behind the generous funding. Coins and roses swirl in a symbolic image behind him, representing the fallen Rose family's bold move. An elegant woman surrounded by roses appears in his thoughts, suggesting calculated strategy rather than coincidence. Suddenly, the girl presses a finger to her lips, signaling silence as they stand close together in the forest. A glowing blue portal pulses within a rocky cliff as several mercenaries step toward it without caution. Energy swirls violently at the gateway, forming sharp arcs of light that slice through the darkness. A close look at the youth's eyes reveals firm resolve as he concludes there is only one course of action. Holding up a promotion document and a ring marked with a purple gem, he recalls how a map connected to the hero's soul appeared during his guild advancement. Under the moonlight, a noble figure stands near a large estate, hinting at unseen influence behind the quest. Lowering his gaze, he recognizes that the timing leaves no alternative path. What seemed accidental now appears orchestrated to push him toward this dungeon. A symbolic graph rises sharply behind him as he analyzes the meaning of the hero's soul map. The quest's difficulty clearly exceeds normal standards. Purple light forms a translucent interface in his hand, reflecting the system's rigid structure. Shock flickers across his face as he senses the system evolving into something closer to the ruthless Adian structure he once knew. Standing before the portal, both figures watch the spinning blue core intensify with unstable power. Dark energy erupts outward, engulfing the forest path in violent waves. The sudden disturbance signals that something inside has gone terribly wrong. Clenching his jaw, the youth identifies the distant cries of mercenaries trapped within. Their screams confirm that the dungeon has turned lethal. Steel clashes sharply as silhouettes exchange rapid strikes near the entrance. The pair remain steady. A fiery explosion bursts outward, scattering debris across the clearing. The shockwave forces them to brace against the force. Through smoke and sparks, a red-haired mage stands with staff raised, seemingly responsible for the blast. Silence falls over the forest as the sounds of battle suddenly cease beyond the glowing entrance. The girl checks a pocket watch while blue light from the portal flickers across her face. The youth calculates the outcome. A grim red image of blood and a fallen staff fills his thoughts, reinforcing the scale of danger inside. Without hesitation, he announces their decision to enter immediately. Surprise flashes across the girl's face at his sudden resolve. Green energy gathers around his hand as he explains that previously triggered traps are unlikely to activate again so soon. Confidence replaces doubt as he prepares to analyze the dungeon's mechanisms. Stepping forward, he releases a controlled aura of earth, aligned power that surrounds both of them. A sharp warning from the girl halts him. Just as he extends his glowing hand toward the entrance, she reminds him of his own claim about trap timing. In response, he reinforces his energy with greater precision, activating the earth-tempering method before proceeding. An enormous magic circle ignites beneath his feet, radiating complex patterns into the darkness. The air vibrates as hidden mechanisms react to his presence. Red mist spreads through the cavern as he identifies the phenomenon as illusion magic rather than a direct attack. A crimson moon appears in his vision, casting unnatural light over the dungeon entrance. The realization shifts the timeline in his mind, placing the beginning of the disaster 20 minutes earlier. Amid fiery debris within the dungeon, a battered man struggles to breathe. Blood stains his face as faint laughter escapes him despite severe injuries. Flames flicker around his exhausted figure while embers drift through the air. Though barely standing, the wounded survivor's strained breaths echo in the burning corridor, proving that at least one mercenary remains alive. Inside the burning dungeon, a mercenary captain with glowing purple eyes swings his sword wildly while flames rise behind him. Moments later, he stands amid fallen subordinates, gripping his blade while fire surrounds the chamber. Elsewhere in the cavern, the hooded youth and the pink-haired girl observe a glowing magic circle on the ground. An illustration in his mind shows a mage stepping into a hidden circle while other fighters advance, unaware they are already affected. Nearby, physical traps such as spike pits remain untouched, proving the victims focused on visible dangers. Turning serious, the youth concludes that the mercenaries lack the skill to detect advanced magical traps.